Hey guys, welcome to part 7 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Hyuga Clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 40. Truth or Dare. After all the things that happened these last days while guarding Naruto, Yamato felt a little bored looking at the small celebration. Odd. Finally I can relax a bit, and then I'm getting bored. He sighed to himself. Then again, things never seem to stay quiet long around that kid. Sitting on top of the roof, hiding his presence from others, Yamato watched the party unfold on the small square in front of the Nara house. I didn't take him for a party person, but it seems I was wrong. He is actually enjoying himself, Yamato noted, as he saw Naruto talk and smile. Although he had remained stoic as always, Yamato felt a little disgusted by what he had seen these last days. People stalking the boy, even some who intended to hurt him, while all he did was to protect the village. And those who realize what he did keep quiet, because they do not know what to think anymore. And how could they? They hated him for years, and now he suddenly shows that they were all wrong. It will take some time before their behavior really changes. He is quite an interesting boy, isn't he? Someone spoke up. Yamato jumped up, drawing a kunai and turning towards the speaker at the same time. Who? He started, observing the cloaked figure. Suddenly, the world seemed to distort a little. Genjutsu. He realized. Kai. The cloaked man seemed unfazed that Yamato had broken his illusion. As expected of one of Konoha's top Anbu, the man said blithely, completely uncaring, as if he was discussing the weather. Makes sense, who else would they assign to guard the child? After all, the importance of what he represents, of what he may become, is never to be underestimated. Who are you? Yamato asked guardedly. And how the hell did he sneak up on me like this? It depends on you, the cloaked figure said calmly. If you so wish, I could fight you and you would perish. But that is not my goal. I came here to gather the information I need, not to kill. Big words. Yamato remained impassive. But Konoha's Anbu would not fall that easily. You are trespassing on Nara clan property. I have every right to retaliate. That you have. The man's voice sounded more amused than anything else. But seeing the legacy of the third successor made me wonder. What kind of man would Sarutobi-sama assign to keep the boy safe? Yamato gathered his chakra and made the snake hand seal. How disappointing, the man whispered. Mokuden. Mokusatsu Shibari no Jutsu, Yamato exclaimed, after first throwing a volley of kunai. Dodging the kunai, the man was caught off guard when multiple branches of wood erupted from the roof and spun around their target, capturing him and leaving no possible way out, while the wooden binding restrained the cloaked figure's chakra. I thought I said I had no interest in fighting. But I am glad the guard of the boy has a befitting ability, the cloaked man said. The world has not seen Mokuden in many years. Who are you? I will not ask again, Yamato demanded. Still, considering an elite Anbu such as yourself, I had expected you to at least sense something. This unexpected ability alone is not enough to face me. Sensed something. Yamato checked his chakra, checked his surroundings, and found nothing. No illusion or other jutsu seemed to have been cast on him. Any attempt to disrupt his chakra also did not change a thing. Then again, it has been a while since any of the Anbu faced someone like me. The wooden restraints around the cloaked figure vanished, and the man moved his hand towards his cap. Kakashi of the Sharingan may have become famous, but his ability pales in comparison to the true powers of the masters of the Sharingan. Yamato felt panic for the first time in years. He looked straight into a pair of Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi. Oh crap, I must. Itachi looked at the unconscious Anbu collapsed before him. The man had never noticed that he had been caught in his genjutsu from the very moment Itachi had revealed himself to him. Sure, the Anbu had seen through the first level, and dispelled it, but it was clear that the man was not used to fighting a true Uchiha. I would say trapping him would have been the obvious course of action, unless I wanted to risk being discovered right in the middle of the village. Still, the man had served his purpose. More than just the intended purpose even, as seeing the Shodai's Mokuden revived was surely a surprise. Good thing I caught him from the start. That display of jutsu would have drawn far too much attention. Now, With that part of the plan executed, I suppose I have to move on, Itachi considered. But he knew he wanted to stay a little longer. He had just seen his little brother leave the party, and what Itachi saw. Itachi had heard about his brother's match during the finals, and the details on how he had lost. From what he had gathered, Sasuke had lost badly, mostly because of his lack of self-control. Itachi remembered how impatient his little brother had always been, before Itachi had to leave Konoha. But his performance just now, was this really the last hope of their once noble clan? Why was Sasuke repeating the mistakes of his elders? I made it clear enough to him that the path the others of our clan followed was inadequate, that was why I killed them. Why is Sasuke still following in their footsteps? Itachi frowned. Sure, he knew his little brother was talented, that much was obvious. It was certainly true that Sasuke had awakened his Sharingan at a late age, yet his progress was far beyond what was considered normal in their clan. Even though it lagged Itachi's own development, it was certainly good. But still, skill alone was not enough. The little party in the backyard of the Nara estate had provided Itachi the perfect opportunity to study his brother's behavior, and several things he had seen had irked him. The first and most obvious issue was the cursed seal that afflicted Sasuke. Itachi could easily see with his Sharingan that this had been left behind by Orochimaru. Akatsuki had heard nothing from the snake summoner, and when he had been sent out it was assumed that Orochimaru had died as well, Itachi recalled sourly. But Itachi now saw that the Sannin had gotten away. He had fled, yet he had not returned to the organization. Betrayal was the only logical conclusion, and Orochimaru's loyalty had been questionable in the first place. Though their leader's response to failure was also a factor, but Orochimaru knew well enough that Akatsuki could not afford to lose both Sasori, who was in charge of the spy network, and Orochimaru, who was the chief scientist of their organization. Sure, the man had tried to get his hands on the Sharingan before, but Itachi had decided to keep that incident quiet. The man was a snake, and snakes were best kept in sight, rather than allowed to slither away to plot something from the shadows. But upon seeing the man's audacity of marking his little brother, Itachi regretted not killing the man all those years ago. Orochimaru was not allowed to interfere with his plans, and Itachi resolved to punish him accordingly. The second thing which Itachi had noticed about his little brother was his bond with Konoha's jinchuriki, although they were obviously not friends. Sasuke's hatred and envy were blatantly obvious to Itachi. Judging from the occasional look that the jinchuriki would cast at him, it was obvious to Itachi that these two, especially from his brother's point of view, had a deep rivalry, one bordering on outright animosity. It pained Itachi to acknowledge that he was probably partly guilty for that, especially given the way he had last spoken to his little brother. Still, this obsession with power was unhealthy. What's more, it seemed rather pointless to Itachi to be envious of another's power. Training oneself to become stronger should be the only response to meeting someone superior in power. Besides, it was quite obvious that the jinchuriki held an unfair advantage over others of his age as he had limited access to the chakra of a being like the Kyuubi. But Itachi knew pretty well how jinchuriki performed, and the blonde boy's power was far beyond Itachi's expectations. In fact, he found the boy's potential rather frightening. Itachi had no intention of advising his leader to take action against the boy right now. No, it would be better for Konoha if Itachi told Akatsuki that Uzumaki Naruto was still too unstable, and that Akatsuki should wait for a better opportunity to catch the Kyuubi, he reasoned. The leader would be easily convinced that the Biju would break free soon. Helpfully, the scenario of the boy losing control was still more likely than gaining control. On the other hand, the idea of Uzumaki becoming a perfect jinchuriki like the one in Kumogakure would terrify even someone of Itachi's level of skill. However, such growth in skill would take time. The boy was not ready to face any S-ranked opponent right now. Itachi doubted that he could even go toe-to-toe against an A-ranked adversary. Since the boy was only 12, Itachi knew what had to be done, deceiving Akatsuki to grant the boy the time he needed to grow. Because if Itachi told the group what he really thought, Akatsuki would move in earnest, and Konoha currently lacked the power to oppose them. But if fed the right information, their leader would not undertake such a risky endeavor. Rather, he would wait until the boy's control diminished and then strike, or simply let the Biju break free and capture it, but the man would not be happy to wait too long. The information on Tsunade's jinchuriki was hardly any better. It had taken Itachi much effort to even get close to the building where the container was held, and seeing Sabaku no Gaara right now was out of the question. He would have to fight his way through the surrounding guard to do so, which would alert all of Konoha's forces. Good thing the audience saw Uzumaki-san alter the seal, or I would have known nothing. However, the way the seal was altered was unknown. Itachi was not exactly an expert when it came to fuinjutsu, that was the field their leader was an expert in. The alteration of the seal that held the Ikibi meant another setback to the plans of Akatsuki. They would first have to figure out what happened to the boy's seal, or else the method of extraction could backfire on them. As the Sanbi was already out of the game due to Yagura's demise, Akatsuki had little interest in suffering another delay by accidentally killing the Ikibi. Still, it actually surprised the rogue Uchiha when he learned how the fully released Ikibi was beaten. It was known to Akatsuki, through reports from Sasori and Orochimaru, that Gaara was in the last stages of losing his control over his Biju. By all logic, the boy should have been able to force far more chakra through his seal than the Kyuubi's jinchuriki. Yet still he lost. Perhaps my expectations are not so unreasonable, Itachi thought, allowing himself a small smile. If Uzumaki-san keeps growing like this, he might be able to halt Akatsuki's plans. In these 2 years since I last saw him, the boy has certainly developed in body and in soul. Itachi looked on as the adults left, while the youths moved into the house. Oddly, one of them, the Aburame, seemed to hesitate whether or not to go inside. Itachi felt a little surprised when he saw the young boy leave. And some people say that I am hard to understand. He frowned. From what he had learned, the young Aburame was now in the team with Sasuke and a kunoichi from an unimportant clan. Itachi knew that the Aburame held a strange sense of loyalty. Is he not entering because his teammates already left? The thought that his younger brother had loyal teammates, he had seen the girl's obvious affection for Sasuke, despite the fact that she was burdened by something grave, made Itachi happy. But will it be enough? They both lack the power to confront Sasuke if he should choose the wrong path. Maybe if the jinchuriki keeps growing the right way, if he manages to overcome the demon's hold on him, I could use him as a failsafe to keep Sasuke on the right path, Itachi pondered. Sasuke seemed to be indifferent about most people, but he seemed to view the jinchuriki differently. He acknowledged the Uzumaki, as shown by marking him as his rival. Knowing his own time had become limited to a few years at most, Itachi knew he had to pick someone capable of performing the job once his own illness got the better of him. Someone in his position needed a contingency plan. Good thing I still have time. It is still too early to decide on something as crucial as this. If I remain careful and use the Mangekyo as little as possible, I should at least last for another 3 years. I should make sure Sasuke succeeds where our clan failed, Itachi sighed. I owe him that. I promised father. I promised mother. I promised Shisui, and I will keep trying to fulfill those promises until the last breath I draw. Itachi reminded himself that he had to keep faith. The signs may not look good, but Sasuke had not fallen yet. There was still hope. Though that cursed seal certainly makes the temptation greater for him. Sasuke had to become the hero who avenged the Uchiha clan, as it was the only way to save their clan. There was still enough time for Itachi to install his safety measure. But before all of that, Itachi needed to ensure that Konoha kept their end of the bargain. He had to remind them of their promise to keep Sasuke safe, especially from Danzo's clutches. But this Anbu would certainly report this encounter to the Hokage, and Itachi was certain that Danzo would find out about it in one way or another. Besides, it would be obvious to anyone who paid enough attention to the way that Sasori's body was destroyed that Itachi had been in the village. Beyond the protection that it gave his younger brother, the incident with the Anbu guard would certainly underline the importance of protecting the Jinchuriki boy. While Itachi might not have any interest in capturing the boy right now, his colleagues were not so polite. Itachi knew that Akatsuki wasn't exactly tightly regulated, his own partner was the living proof of it. It would be quite the disappointment if the Uzumaki died before he could develop his true powers, because one of the more impatient members of Akatsuki had sought him out and Konoha had failed to protect him properly. No, the boy needs to remain safe, he will need the time to grow and develop. The more Itachi thought about it, the more convinced he became of it. Not only does he have the strength to face Sasuke in a worst-case scenario, if he continues to grow as I project now, he would also be the only real chance the world has at beating our leader. Naruto looked around and felt slightly surprised. The inside of Shikamaru's home completely different from what he had expected. Unlike the frigid and orderly environment in which the Hyuga lived, the home of the Nara family was cozy and warm. It was not in a state of disorder, but it was far more laid back than the environment he knew from the Hyuga. Each family of the Nara clan owned their own house on the large compound, and there was little emphasis on formality and tradition. Naruto had heard a thing or two about the clan, and how they kept herds of deer in the forest on their compound, which caused the Nara compound to be the largest compound possessed by any clan within Konoha. As the two teams and Tenten entered the living room, Yoshino brought some refreshments, with a firm glare at Choji when she warned him to leave some of it for the others, and announced that she and her husband were retiring for the day. Of course, this meant that Shikamaru was responsible for keeping everything clean and orderly. The look in his mother's eyes promised unspeakable horrors if he did not. Naruto almost felt pity for the poor boy. Small wonder he is that lazy. If she pushes him around like that all of the time, I could understand him not wanting to do a single thing when he is out of her sight. It was a good thing for Shikamaru that she had left, or she would undoubtedly have caused mayhem. Though Naruto suspected that even the unruly feline would not cross Yoshino, she was probably even intimidating than a seriously pissed off Hyuga Akko. I wonder which complete idiot ever started the idea that women are the weaker sex. Seriously, women are scary, Naruto thought, as he watched Yoshino drag Shikaku upstairs. We poor males never stood even a ghost of a chance. Business as usual. I see, Ino said, after she finally stopped laughing. My dad always spoils my mother every time he meets your dad, Shikamaru. Understandable. Your mother isn't half as troublesome as mine, Shikamaru sighed. Inoichi-san certainly has much to be grateful for. Your mum's a great cook, Choji said, as if that solved everything. Not to mention that Yoshino didn't suffer from the whole diet obsession that reigned in the Yamanaka household. Just be glad you don't have an older sister, Kiba laughed at Shikamaru, while Akamaru made it himself comfortable on the empty seat next to Kiba. Be happy you guys even have a family, Naruto wanted to say, but didn't. It would only spoil the mood, and he felt strangely happy during the first real party he ever attended. The Hyugas had parties but they lacked any form of amusement. So what's the plan? Games. Ino decided on her own. What kind of game? Tenten frowned. How about truth or dare? Ino smirked. Why do I not like where this is going? Naruto muttered. Afraid. Scaredy cat. Well, knowing your preferences, Ino-san, it might be better to not do, Hanata tried to argue. Choji nodded. But Ino stopped her with a glare. Don't bother arguing with her, it's no use and far too troublesome. We might as well just get it over with. All right then, who starts? Ino smiled wickedly. All six paled at the idea that Ino would single them out for this disguised form of torture. They had suddenly fully realized that she was the daughter of an officer of the Torture and Investigation Department. Orochimaru-sama, Nara-Kazu bowed. Why did you call for us? We had nearly finished our preparations to take out the target. Calling us back right now has delayed our plans. Eliminating that pesky rice field daimyo will only take more time now. Orochimaru saw the annoyance on the Nara's face, but did not care. I will deal with him personally. I have more important tasks for you for now. What's more important than taking over a fucking country? Kenta grumbled. We wasted 3 freaking weeks to figure out a way to get to that paranoid moron without anyone spotting us. That guy is still freaked out after what Amor did last time. And to make things worse, Nana nearly went on a freaking killing spree because she had to wait for all that time. Really now? Orochimaru frowned a bit in surprise. Nana, I thought my orders were clear. Yes, father, a pale, yellow-eyed teenage girl replied. Her black hair covered half of her face, but still her lack of sanity was clear for all to see. And I didn't break any orders. That big freak made sure of that, unfortunately. Seriously, I only wanted to have a little fun. Spoil sports. Hey, I like a little slaughter party but this was not the time. Amor said, as if he needed to apologize for not allowing the unnecessary bloodshed. Enough, Orochimaru hissed before his daughter could say anything else. Nana, you will go to the lab right now, prepare for an examination and wait there. Also, do not mess with the assistants this time, I am running low on capable medics. Ah, I can't even kill one. Not even light torture. And is Kabuto not here? Move. Yes, father, the girl pouted. Kazu watched the girl leave the room. Orochimaru turned to him and asked, she is another failure, isn't she? Her personality is unstable, Kazu reported. It is only half a year since she left the tank you grew her in, but her body is already showing signs of deterioration. It seems the drugs are affecting her mind. She is becoming a liability at this rate. No shit, Kenta snapped. Crazy bitch nearly killed me on our way back, I couldn't even take my fucking guard down when taking a goddamn piss. She nearly cut my dick off. Seriously, I hope her replacement is finished soon. I understand you want to do research with those tank-bred clones of yours, but at least make them in such way that they remain sane for a little longer. And if you can't guarantee that, at least don't teach them kenjutsu. That blade came far too close to unmanning me, damn it. I thought it was too early for the drugs to take their toll already, Orochimaru frowned, ignoring most of Kenta's rant. Far too soon. It seems I miscalculated, it's quite disappointing. I will see why Nana failed, and then I will speed up Yatsu's development. Kabuto had some positive reports on my 8th daughter's growth. And the data I gathered on my 7th should make sure that Yatsu performs better. Where is that smirking piece of shit anyway? Is he still spying on those tree huggers? I am afraid not. Kabuto is dead. What? Kenta exclaimed. That fucker got himself killed. What happened? Kenta may have disliked the young Yakushi, but he certainly respected the young man's ability. Sure, it was below Kenta's ability, and even below Kazu's, but it was still impressive enough. Then again, he was, like them, one of the very few, unmarked, operatives that Orochimaru allowed to act freely. The invasion was a failure, Orochimaru remarked, keeping his voice calm as if he was discussing the weather, but the killing intent he radiated was enough to make it very clear to all three that their master was absolutely furious. They nearly pitied Nana, as they knew what the snake Sanin did when he was pissed. How did that happen? Our plans were perfect, Kazu frowned. With the aid of Tsunade, our troops should have been able to overrun Konoha. Did their jinchuriki mess up or something? Wait, if the invasion failed, did he get his hands on the Biju? It would seem that Sasori failed as well. Somehow, Kumogakure's jinchuriki got involved in the chaos. And despite your intel, she did not have her powers sealed. Kitamaro told me of observing blue flames, and he felt a horrible chakra that even surpassed the Ikibi. I highly doubt that Sasori would have been able to win that match, not after he already wasted so much of his chakra on manipulating those sleeper agents of his. Fuck, Kenta whispered. And now what? I can't imagine that Akatsuki is pleased. That is why I withdrew the three of you. We need to move 2 of our hideouts that are known to them, and quickly too. I doubt it will take long before they learn of our failure and figure out I did not die. We are not yet in a condition where we could face them. So for now, we need to withdraw and carefully plan our next move. And the 2 Dujutsu. Kabuto failed to collect the Byakugan, but I succeeded in marking Sasuke-kun. Then our next move would be to collect that brat's eyes, Kazu sighed. With the Sharingan, you could at least face Itachi, although it doesn't mean the others would be easy to take down. Shame that Kabuto failed in getting the Byakugan, even when he had given us such an opportunity. Don't be so disappointed, Kazu-kun, Orochimaru smirked. Not everything ended badly. I did get a hit on my old sensei, so the village should be in chaos right now. There is no way that even Tsunade would be able to counter that specific poison. But regarding Sasuke-kun, I am still waiting for an answer. Once we reach an agreement, I will put the sound 4 on that task. 4. Lil. Boner still not healed? Kenta wondered. Sadly, no. Kimimaro-kun suffers from an unknown condition. Kabuto was looking after it, but without him, well, I would like you to set out to Mizu no Kuni, Kenta-kun, and retrieve any medical information that might be left in his old clan's abandoned stronghold. Not that the Kagaya clan was known for their literacy, but if there is even a small chance to heal Kimimaro. I know, he was your favorite next body, Kenta sighed. He was still disgusted by his master's jutsu, but it wasn't like he would go against it. Fine, I'll set out immediately after restocking my supplies. It would be fun to return home again. It's been a few years since I last visited water. Good, Kazu-kun, you and Amor evacuate the two eastern hideouts. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, Kazu and Amor chanted. Kenta shrugged. He wasn't a loyal lapdog like the other two. Che. Good luck with cutting another daughter open, he grunted. Kenta hated the whole Fushi Tensei thing, but the way Orochimaru treated his own replicas was, in his opinion, even worse. They were living lab rats, existing to be tested upon and filled with drugs to increase their growth and performance. But they never lasted long, and all met a nasty end. Nana was the seventh of them, and the third that Kenta had worked with. But she was definitely the best performing of the seven so far. He had seen a lot of horrible things, but the sight of the fifth replica dying was one of the few things that returned in his nightmares. No living being deserved such a horrid death. Kenta loved torture, but some things just went too far, even to him. Fucking crazy contingency plans of his. He may be a genius, but he's a fucking freak as well. Glad he thought I was too valuable to be used as another guinea pig. Seriously, Kiba, are you freaking nuts? Tenten exclaimed. Yes, how could you dare Choji to beat up Naruto? Ino exclaimed. You want to kill him? He doesn't have to do it, Kiba smirked, seeing Choji's distraught look. He can always admit defeat. Shikamaru sighed. The very moment Ino had suggested this game, he knew that this would get out of hand eventually. There were simply too many troublesome people in one room, so havoc was the only logical outcome. But he would not sit idly when his best friend was cornered like this. Well, if you play it that way, I'll raise the stakes. The winner of the duel will get free ramen for a week, on the Inuzuka clan's tab of course. Hey, do you want me to tell your sister that little piece of information you just shared? I'm certain she would not be very pleased. Nor your mother, for that fact. No, you can't. Kiba paled. Though Karen-chan might think differently. Hanata suggested, blushing at the thought. You wouldn't. Kiba now lost every shred of color. If she heard that, he uttered. Me and my big mouth, why did I have to tell that? Choji's eyes were still wide open and Naruto had started to drool a little. No, I will fight Naruto, Choji exclaimed. Are you serious? You know what he can do, right? Kiba sweated. Crap, this is going out of control. Fuck. Don't worry, Kiba, I won't eat too much ramen, Naruto grinned. And it's not like a little ramen would cause your clan to go bankrupt. You and ramen. There is never a little ramen with you. You could bankrupt the entire freaking village with your appetite for that stuff. Don't worry, Kiba, I'll make sure I beat Naruto, Choji promised. Like that is going to make a difference, Kiba cried, seeing his own plans turned against him. All right, I give. I surrender. I withdraw the dare. You win, Choji. Great. Choji smiled. I'll send you the bill next week. Hold it right there. You did not duel Naruto, so Kiba does not have to pay. You know that, right, Choji? Shikamaru smirked. Ah, Shika. No going back on your word, Choji, you already accepted Kiba's loss. Whose side are you really on, Shikamaru? Ino laughed. Great. So it's my turn now. Naruto, Tenten, and Shikamaru paled. They were the only ones who did not have a turn yet, and none of them wanted to be a victim of Ino. Naruto. Ino smirked, a smirk that widened when she heard Naruto groan. Truth or dare? Ah, damn it. Why Ino? Why me? I'm so dead. Let's see. Any dare she would come up with will certainly be too embarrassing. I can definitely not trust her with that. So that leaves truth. Crap, it's not like that is any better. Knowing her, it could only go one direction. Naruto sighed. I'll pick the lesser of two evils. Truth. I might as well get it over with right now. Ah, not enough courage to choose dare. And I had such a great idea for you, Ino pouted. I am sure you do. That's why I would never pick dare when you pick the challenge, Naruto deadpanned. Okay, then, actually, truth might be even better. Now you finally can't evade my questions, she grinned. He had evaded her questions for years at the academy, but now he would have to answer one of her questions. But which question should I ask? I have so many. Still, no matter how many, nearly all of them revolved around one thing. Ino frowned, and looked at Naruto. Okay, she decided. Tell me the truth. How did you defeat Gaara? And I don't mean the jutsu that you used. How on earth did you manage to overpower a jinchuriki? Ino-san. Hinata exclaimed. Shikamaru agreed with her. For once, Ino should be stopped, no matter how troublesome it would be. Even Akamaru barked his protests, while Kiba was still distracted by his failed dare. Guys, stop it, Naruto sighed. She has the right to ask this, and it's not like I am forbidden to answer. In fact, I thought I should tell this anyway. He noted the curious looks on the others' faces. Before I answer, you all need to know that this is actually stuff that is labeled as a secret. He smirked and looked at Ino. So no matter what you hear now, you can't gossip about it, or the Hokage will have your head. You're kidding, right? Ino smiled, thinking he was joking, but the smile quickly turned into a frown. Right. No, I'm dead serious, Ino. The Hokage himself made a law to forbid anyone from telling it, and if you do you would face a death penalty. So no gossip, unless you want to die young. Naruto warned. What? But you are allowed to tell such stuff. How? Tenten exclaimed. Because this is my secret, Naruto sighed. Therefore the law the Hokage made does not apply to me. Now, do you still want to know how I managed to defeat Gaara? Ino nodded, sitting on the edge of her seat. Man, this almost seems to beat my plan of getting him to kiss Hinata. This must be huge. Naruto, you don't need to. Kiba started, but Naruto shook his head. And he says I'm stubborn, Kiba grunted. My birthday is near. Naruto started after a few moments of silence, chuckling when Ino fell back and cried out in frustration. She wanted to know, and patience was definitely not her strongest point. Wait, calm down Ino. I'm not joking around. You wanted to know, so I'll tell the whole thing. Just let me finish first, and don't interrupt me, okay? Everyone else nodded, and Shikamaru glared at Ino, who eventually gave in and agreed. Naruto leaned back. Is this really a smart thing to do? Probably not, but then again, they have seen enough and it is not likely that it will remain a secret for much longer. Telling them myself would be the best option. It's 13 years ago, 2 weeks from now, the day that Konoha was attacked by the Kyuubi. It is also the day that I was born, and I am told that it was also the day my parents died. I do not know who my parents were, nor do I know how they died, but I presume the demon was responsible, just like how it took the lives of so many others that day, Naruto sighed. Anyway, it was also the day that the Yondaime managed to defeat the demon. Hanata frowned sadly a little when she saw Naruto pause for a second. But he did not kill the Kyuubi, Naruto stated. What? But they said. Ino. Shikamaru cut her off, strictly, and much louder than he usually was. It surprised the girl. Shikamaru was never this serious, not outside of missions at least. What was going on? What could distress him this much? Wait. Don't tell me, if it didn't die then, she spurred open her eyes. I know that we were told that the Yondaime killed the Kyuubi, but that is a lie. He couldn't do that, as the Kyuubi was beyond a mortal man's abilities to slay, so he could only seal it away. And even someone as powerful as the Yondaime had to sacrifice his own life to seal the demon away. No. Ino paled. You can't mean that. He couldn't have. Yes, Ino. He sealed the Kyuubi into a newborn child that just happened to be close by. That baby was me. That is why I was able to defeat Sabaku no Gaara. I am a jinchuriki just like he is, Naruto said. Well, not exactly like him, because he has the Ikibi sealed inside him, which is weaker than the Kyuubi, but still, it's the same principle. Unfortunately, having the Kyuubi sealed within me is also the reason why people hate me. They think that I am the demon, rather than the one who is imprisoning it. Why? How could they have? Mom told me that but you didn't do a thing. Ino exclaimed, as she felt the tears prick in her eyes. How could anyone do something like that to a baby? I am a jinchuriki, a human sacrifice, a tool for the village used to imprison the demon's power. People never bothered to treat me fairly. I am not a human to them. They see the monster I contain, not me, and blame me for all the suffering the demon caused. After all, they needed someone to take the responsibility for what happened 13 years ago, and I was all that remained of the Kyuubi. Choji gulped. Naruto. Listen, I'll understand it if you guys don't want to know me anymore, and I won't blame you either. I know that because of what I am you would rather. Like hell they would. Hiba snapped. None of you better have the nerve to blame Naruto for what that demon did. All. He glared angrily at the others. Hiba. Naruto barked, cutting the enraged Inuzuka off. Stop it. You cannot force your opinion on them, he sighed wearily. You know very well that this piece of information is sensitive to many people. Who knows, perhaps some of them lost family to the demon, just like your clan lost several members that day. Remember the trouble you had when you first learned of this. You are wrong, Shikamaru interjected. Sure, the Nara clan lost people too, that day. But they died because of the Kyuubi. Not because of you, Naruto. And I refuse to accept that the village was right by responding like that. They are just a bunch of stupid and troublesome idiots if they would treat you like that because of something you had no blame for. Why yeah, Ino agreed, very subdued. But now I understand why my mother, why she didn't want me to talk you. I'm sorry, she suddenly cried, realizing what Naruto had gone through. Tenten tried to comfort her a bit, but Ino ignored her. Ino knew she had never actively picked on him, but she did not help him either. She only bothered him because she wanted to satisfy her own curiosity. I should never have listened to her. My uncle. I should not have. I'm so sorry, I should not have ax. Naruto smiled gently. Relax. I understand why you did it. Seriously, you never insulted me, you never attacked me, or did anything bad against me at all. Though I will admit that you were a pain in the ass once you were curious about something, while I had to keep this stuff secret, he said, getting her to laugh between the sobs. Shikamaru and Choji were always friendly to me, and because of that you also seemed to accept me to some degree. I never blamed you for how I was treated. Same goes for you and your team, Tenten. Me. Tenten blinked. You, Lee, and Guy-sensei. You always treated me like a normal human being, despite the way so many people hated me, he explained. Yet, his smile turned into a sad grimace. But I knew what I was, and that is why I kept my distance from all of you. Because I thought you wouldn't understand. Because I was afraid you would not understand. That was why I never told any of you. I just hope you guys don't feel as if I betrayed you because I didn't tell. Of course not, Naruto. This is big, Tenten nearly whispered. Huge. It's not like you could come up with something like this when, and it shouldn't even matter in the first place. She suddenly snapped. Like Shikamaru said, you are not the Kyuubi. Sure, you may be an absent-minded idiot at times, and you went too far in your fight with Neji, but you sure as hell are not a demon. I dare say you are better than most, considering how you never looked down on me, even though I am clanless. Yeah, she is right, you're a good guy, Naruto, Choji said. Thanks, you guys, Naruto nodded, and swallowed away the lump he felt in his throat. Really? There is one thing that I don't get though, Shikamaru said after a few seconds. Your parents, how could you not know who they are? I thought such stuff was always recorded, I mean, with all the bloodline stuff that the elders focus on. Beats me, Naruto sighed. Really, all I know is my name. I sought for other Uzumaki that lived in Konoha, but only found a reference to an Uzumaki Mito, who was the wife of the Shodai Hokage, Senju Hashirama. She died years ago though, long before I was even born. Perhaps my parents were just traveling, and had the bad luck to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know. As far as I know, I'm just an orphan. But why did you tell us now? Choji asks. Naruto smiled a bit when he heard Choji's subdued voice. But then again, the Akamichi had always been an extremely kind and gentle person. After what I did in the fight against Gaara, I figured that I would only be a matter of time before the thing would become public knowledge. I mean, after the finals, the cat was out of the bag, so I figured I might as well tell you guys before anyone else told you. I suppose you want to tell Lee too? Tenten asks. Yeah, I'll tell him myself when next time we spar, Naruto smiled. But knowing him, it won't be a big issue. Especially because Guy-sensei never seemed to hate me like most adults do. It would probably result into some of that youthful mumbo-jumbo of theirs. Tenten nodded with a small smile. I'm sure Shino-kun already knows, he more or less hinted at it, Hinata told Naruto. Figures. That guy was always freakishly smart. I'll try to tell him when I next see him, despite how hard it is to start a conversation with him. So, wait, is this the reason why you and Shino exchanged places? Ino asks. Partly, Naruto admitted. We had a mission that went bad, and I used some of the Kyuubi's chakra to remove the threat we faced. You can do that. Ino blinked. It's how I beat Gaara, remember? Naruto said dryly. It kind of freaked out Sakura though. Ah, so that is what she meant, Choji said, remembering how scared she had seemed to be of Naruto. Sakura, I mean, she seemed rather terrified of you. So, I take it that she and Sasuke already knew about the Kyuubi. Not that I'm aware of, Naruto said, coldly. And I can't say that I care either. What happened back then was closed off after the mission. But it's safe to say that we won't be friends after that. I left their team, and to be frank, it certainly made my life a lot better. Despite Kiba stinking of dog, Naruto smirked. Hey, Kiba exclaimed, aided by an annoyed Akamaru growling at Naruto. But don't you, Ino started. You got enough truths out of me today, didn't you? Naruto teased. He was honestly relieved that they received it so well, but preferred to change the subject now. So whose turn is it now? Much later that evening, or night, everyone went back home. The mood had eventually been restored a little, but it was safe to say that Ino, Choji, and Tenten were deeply shocked. Unlike Shikamaru, who had already guessed most of it, they had been completely surprised about the secret concerning Naruto's burden. Tenten had even said that she thought that it had only been some kind of freakish keke genkai. A good side effect was that the challenges that had followed after Ino's had been rather subdued. And this was especially convenient for Hanata, since Tenten picked Hanata for a truth, in which Hanata managed to rather skillfully evaded telling the truth on how she felt about her teammates. And Tenten had been too distracted to see through it. Even Ino's gossip senses failed her. Shikamaru, however, did see it, but was too lazy to call her bluff. He did make a mental note to never underestimate Hinata's shrewdness again, especially when it concerned an issue which involved Naruto. Why are all women scary? Even the quiet ones. He had grumbled in himself at the time. But now the party had ended, Naruto was left asking himself if they would act differently now, if he really had made the right choice telling them. He knew very well that words often did not translate into actions. But they had taken it better than he had expected, although Ino had become rather angry once she realized how her mother had tried to set her up against Naruto. The look in her eyes was a promise of war in the Yamanaka household. Even if her uncle died due to the Kyuubi's onslaught, it was no excuse to the young Yamanaka that her mother had swayed her to avoid the jinchuriki. Sure, Inoichi had tempered his wife whenever he was around, saying that Naruto was not the menace some people claimed, but when he was not around, Ino had to listen to the rants that made no sense to her at all. Until now. Choji, on the other hand, offered Naruto his last bag of his chips. Naruto did not know where the big bone boy managed to cram all those bags of chips away, but accepted the gesture, especially when he saw the looks of the others. Choji and his food, and some people say that I am nuts when it's about ramen. The others split off in their separate directions, and Naruto walked on alongside a silent and rather sleepy Hyuga. Naruto looked up at the nightly skies, and sighed, feeling rather content. It was the first time he had been at a party like this, with only those of his own age. He had always avoided those of his own age group whenever he could, a remnant of his time at the orphanages when the other kids would beat him up. But, he felt relieved that they knew, and even more relieved because they seemed to accept him, at least to some degree. He stared up at the moon. It was only a few days away from being full again. Naruto wondered why the good feeling he had left him, and why he started to feel so agitated by the sight of the moon. For some reason, part of him had always felt uncomfortable seeing it, but recently that feeling had gotten much stronger, to the point that he avoided looking at it. Odd. When did I start hating the moon? Alright men, *, she started. And women, Asterisk Tora added darkly, not wanting to be ignored. And woman, asterisk she sighed. Seriously, when is this uptight little bitch going to shut up? She added in thought, glaring at the brown furred feline with the ridiculous red ribbon on her right ear. Don't know why Sudo introduced this annoying little bitch. What is your plan, Chi-sama? Asterisk Zero asks. Is it food? Catnip. Sakana meowed in a hopeful tone. She couldn't help but chuckle. Sakana was so easy to understand, all the ginger-colored male cared about was his own stomach. Zero told her that is how his brother had gotten his name from their owners. Sakana had stolen fish from their kitchen. And ever since Chi saved the two brothers from strange meatballs' chakra manipulation, she wondered why the meatballs' abilities made her think of a certain puppet master. The two cats practically worshipped her. Sakana for the food, and Zero for the fun of it all. The brown cat was oddly proud of his white-tipped tail, and as long as her plans did not involve dirt, Zero didn't allow a single speck of dust onto his precious tail. He was always ready for anything. At least, as long as a certain Yamanaka girl did not interfere. If there was one person who Zero worshipped more than Chi, it was Yamanaka Ino. Sakana was much easier. He just worshipped the person who offered him the most food. Small wonder the cat could often be found in the Akamichi compound. Sudo was also present, and he had been the one to introduce Tora, the notorious runaway cat who always tried and failed to escape his owner, Madame Shijimi. Sudo had even gone as far as to explain the basics of how they could become proper Ninako. At that point, Tora had practically betrothed herself to him. He was the best chance she had to escape from her master's smothering embrace. The plan does indeed concern food, asterisk Chi chuckled evilly. I promised you last time. We are going to raid a certain dango stand. Asterisk. Dango. That human food on sticks. Sudo wondered. Good. That stuff is tasty. Sasuke-san sometimes brings it home. Asterisk. Yes, it is tasty and all, but that is not my primary objective. Chi-sama. Zero frowned. There is a certain crazy snake two-leg who picked a fight with me a while ago. She loves dango, and I think a little payback is in order. After all, that insane female two-leg nearly murdered me. What did you do? Sudo asks, knowing very well that the feline had started this feud herself. Stole some of her dango, asterisk Chi chuckled. All right, this is what I propose. Chi and her 4 followers later stood on top of a nearby building. She smirked as she saw the sobbing man. My dango. How could they? Criminals. Scum. I suffered so long because my cabbages were always destroyed, and when I started a new business, the poor man cried. Is there no place safe from these food vandals? The cats had cooperated surprisingly well, and before the man had entered his stand, they had already been gone. Leaving not a single trace, apart from the little piece of evidence Chi had dropped. And why does this cabinet reek so much? The other cats looked at Sudo, who suddenly whistled and acted as if he was as innocent as a recently born kitten. Fought. Asterisk. D-rank missions. They were the blight on shinobi existence. But she was glad because she knew she had nearly served her sentence. The third had been lenient enough to change her punishment from a 3-month period where she had to work in order to repay for all the damage she caused by chasing a dango-stealing cat, to merely a fixed number of missions. With the destruction from the invasion, there was a mass of D-rank missions, clearing rubble, repairing buildings, etc., etc. Although it was boring physical labor, Mitarashi Anko saw it as training to satisfy the rage she felt. The rage because she had missed the one opportunity to confront her old sensei. Her face still in a grimace, she did not notice the desperate cries as she approached the old man who owned the dango stand she visited each morning. It was her one and only joy these days. When she stepped inside, she noticed the tearful man. What? Someone had dared to attack the only safe haven she had. Now, Anko considered herself to be a considerate and patient woman, but there were limits. Nobody threatened her dango. Jumping in, she quickly started to examine the crime scene. But the man had yet to clean his stand, having closed it late the evening before, so there were hardly any clues to be found. Though, her sense of smell was practically ruined after spending most of the night fixing the damage that was done to a part of the sewer system. So, she didn't smell anything odd about a suspicious cabinet filled with rubbish. She couldn't even summon a snake to help her, because they would kill her if she summoned them smelling like this. So she could not find a single clue, until she suddenly saw a single shred of blue fabric. Her violent cursing drew even the desperate owner's attention away from his own sobbing and his cabbage traumas. Blue fabric would normally not ring any bells with the, in reality not so patient, snake mistress, but after the hell that was called back-to-back D ranks, the old Hokage had not failed to assign her to babysit several times. Most the time it meant that he dropped the responsibility of looking after that insidious little brat of a grandson upon her. Honored grandson. You just pulled one prank too many on me, Anko whispered murderously, releasing a killing intent that instantly knocked out the poor stand owner. I'm going to feed you to my snakes, piece by piece, no matter who you are related to, you accursed little devil. She snapped. Arg. I hate kids. Looking down at the enraged Tokubetsu Jonin who now charged off in the direction of the Sarutobi compound while shouting the worst kinds of threats, she chuckled and turned towards her companions. I love it when a plan comes together, she smirked. That should keep Scarfy two-leg off my tail for a while. Now I just need to figure out how to ground the chibi white-eye two-leg. So she created her own little army now. Naruto felt a few drops of sweat run down his face as he watched the scene. This is getting out of hand, way out of hand. Poor Konohamaru. Chapter 41. Idealist. Inochi woke up after the front door slammed open, right in the middle of the night. What the hell? He mumbled sleepily. He wanted to turn around and continue sleeping, but his wife already moved out of the bed. It's just Ino, he grumbled. Sleep. I will go downstairs and greet our daughter, Yamanaka Yuriko huffed, looking at her lazy husband while she quickly fixed her brown hair. At least one of us should welcome her home. Fine, fine, I'll get up as well, Inoichi grunted, knowing that if he didn't he would have to pay for it the next day. When the two entered the kitchen, they saw why Ino had opened the door as loudly as she did. Their daughter was angry, no, not just in a regular fury, but outright enraged. Sweetie, what's wrong? Yuriko tried to calm her daughter. Though Ino was bitchy every now and then, she was rarely truly angered. But whatever happened, Yuriko pitied the fool that had woken this sleeping dragon. You should know. Ino snapped back. Don't talk to your mother like that, young lady, Inoichi warned her. Why not? Ino growled. She lied to me. For years. Why, Mom, why did you have to fill my head with your pathetic lies? Taken aback by her outburst, Inoichi looked at his wife, wondering what was going on here. But seeing the surprise in her light brown eyes, and disapproval of her daughter's behavior in the twitching at the corner of her mouth, Inoichi realized that she didn't know either. Explain yourself, he sighed. Might as well get it over with. No idea what got Yuriko said to get Ino pissed like this, but knowing Ino's stubbornness, we have to stop this before it gets out of control. I have to explain myself. Ino screeched. I heard the truth tonight. For years, you told me to stay away from him, she pointed at her mother's chest. You were the one with all the stories of how he couldn't be trusted, of how he was a criminal, a liar, a piece of filth unworthy of being near. Inoichi looked from his wife to his daughter and suddenly realized it. She had just returned from a party at the Nara estate, with all her former classmates. Naruto must have been there as well, and knowing his daughter, she would have certainly had her questions at the ready after the stunt the boy pulled during the final round of the Chunin exams. Why did you want me to hate Naruto? Ino asks, her voice getting dangerously low. The fair-skinned woman huffed indignantly. Because that thing is something you needed to stay away from. Why? Because the Yondaime Hokage sealed the Kyuubi within him. Ino shocked her parents, making it clear to them that she now knew it all. Who told you that? Inoichi demanded. That is not something of which Naruto told us, Ino growled. That doesn't matter. What matters is that I apparently cannot trust you too, or at least not you, Kasen. I am appalled to find that you would try set me up against my classmate. How could you use me like that? Naruto is innocent. Why would you portray him as some kind of monster? Innocent. Yuriko laughed mockingly. You call that thing innocent? Inoichi saw the veins bulge at his daughter's forehead and realized his wife had made a critical mistake. Shut up. Ino lashed out verbally. What do you know about him? You were too blinded by your own damn hatred to see Naruto for who he is. Do you think he is the Kyuubi? He imprisons the demon. He suffers more from it than anyone else. What do I know? I saw that demon kill my brother. Yuriko snapped. Inoichi sighed, knowing that this would be a long, long night. That thing may have been sealed in a baby, but from that moment on, that thing hasn't been human. How could a human withstand such a powerful creature? You keep away from that thing, you hear me? It is for your own safety, for who knows when that demon will decide to destroy us all. How stupid of me, I thought I could trust my own mother, Ino responded icily. Inoichi flinched. This was new, and definitely not good. His daughter got bitchy, yes, and at times she snapped like she did tonight, but this frozen anger was something even worse. Sweetie, he tried to calm his daughter, but he already knew it was futile. Stop it, Dad. I know, you told me Naruto might be dangerous, but you at least told me to make my own decision regarding him, she said with the same ice-cold tone. She, however, found it necessary to use me for her own goals. You said the Yamanaka clan values honesty above everything else, yet she kept lying and lying. They were not lies. Yuriko defended herself, noticing her husband's look. You know as well as I do, the stories that are circulating through. Wow, stories, really? Ino scoffed, maintaining the same cold and emotionless tone. Tell me, Yuriko-san, did you ever bother to check if those stories were true? Or did you just make them up yourself, considering how you were always so glad to spread those rumors? You just needed someone to blame for Oji-san's death. You really are pathetic. Goodbye. Ino stomped away, slamming the kitchen door shut when she left. Inoichi saw his wife gape, and stare at the spot where her daughter had just been. Ino-chan has always had this protective habit, just like how she picked up Sakura-chan and pulled her out of her isolation. So learning how she was manipulated into aiding in the isolation of a classmate who was treated far worse than any other, she must feel guilty. No, not just guilty, he realized. If there is anything she hates, it would be to be used as a pawn in the schemes of another. And this was her very own mother. We must fix this, or she will hold a serious grudge against Yuriko-chan. Ino-chan is too stubborn for us to hope that this just blows over. Not Okasan or Kachan, but Yuriko-san, his wife muttered, and he saw how hurt she was that her own daughter refused to refer to her as her mom, like she always did. That vile creature now tries to turn my own daughter against me. She whispered. Honey, you know that that is not true, right? Inoichi began to worry when he saw the look in his wife's eyes. You need to calm down. We will talk to her tomorrow when we are all a bit more reasonable, okay? No, Yuriko hissed, before she too stomped out of the kitchen and followed her daughter upstairs. She will listen to reason, even if I have to force her to do it. Inoichi paled when he realized where his wife was going. What was the saying again? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Sweet Kami, and I have two of these stubborn women in one house, Inoichi whimpered, before he hurried upstairs. He still remembered seeing Yuriko's outbursts of fury, from the times before they had even started dating. He had been lucky enough to never be at the receiving end of it, but this was really getting out of control, way out of control. And it is your own fault, Yuriko-chan, I told you to stop spreading those lies, but you never listen. The following morning, at 10 o'clock sharp, Naruto knocked at the door of the office that Temurime had temporarily occupied during her stay in Konoha. Due to the invasion and its fallout, her stay in Konoha had been longer than originally planned, but with the messenger birds Konoha provided, she could at least do some of her work while waiting to depart. Still, she was glad that she could leave soon, and take firm control over her own village again. After all, the civil war was still fresh in anyone's memory, so their nation was not as stable as she would have liked. However, her stay in Konoha had definitely given her an idea or two on how to redecorate her own office. Konoha was certainly a more comfortable place than Kurigakure, but that was understandable as Konoha had not just emerged from a civil war. Enter, she ordered, after one of the guards announced Naruto. Good morning, Miss Mizukage, Naruto bowed. Good morning, Uzumaki-san, Mei nodded, as she gestured him to take a seat. Haku told me you wanted to meet me. Yes, Naruto admitted, while slightly hesitating. I heard quite a lot about how you fought against the invader, I mean, he added. I heard you possess two Kekkei Genkai. I was wondering, I have only ever heard of people possessing one bloodline limit, as it is already rare for people to be born with two affinities towards the nature transformation of chakra. And your point is? Mei frowned. Well, I was wondering, as you have two, is it possible that one can learn a Kekkei Genkai, rather than being born with it? Naruto asks, even though he did not really expect her to spill her secrets. But if he didn't ask he would never know, right? Ah, I see, Mei sighed. So that is it. I saw you use two elements, so I presume you have two affinities, but no Kekkei Genkai. Mei deduced. He was far too young to have trained for a second affinity, so she believed that he must have had both Futon and Kaden affinities from birth. In a way, Naruto shrugged. I seem to have affinities towards Futon and Kaden, while my mastery of Raiden still lags behind. That one still requires a ton of training. Mei widened her eyes as she heard him, almost casually but for the slight hint of annoyance in his voice, talk about learning a third element. Could he actually be disappointed about not mastering a third element, at his age? So, yeah, I imagined that I could ask you if it were possible to learn a Kekkei Genkai, if someone has the affinity for two elements, Naruto continued. I mean, I have never heard of anyone pulling something like that off here in Konoha, so I thought it might be worth asking, he smiled. I see. Well, to be frank, I was born with affinities to both Suiden and Kaden, Mei explained. So, the Futon, or boil release, was natural for me, ever since I was a child. It was something that ran in the family. But to my family, I was a bit of an anomaly due to training to gain an affinity towards the earth element. It required a long period of extensive training before I eventually figured out how to do the Yoden Jutsus, or lava release. So they can be learned. Naruto smiled. Yes, although I must warn you that it is an extremely difficult process. And frankly, I was only able to master the lava release because I possessed a large quantity of data on it from other Yoden users. So all I managed to do was to balance out the two chakras, based on how others did it, and eventually stabilize it enough so that I could use it in combat. It actually took years before my Yoden was as strong as it should be. Naruto rubbed his chin when he thought about the implications of this. So I have to find information on how to use both wind and fire chakra at the same time. But where? Frankly, I have never even heard of someone wielding a nature Kekkei Genkai based on fire and wind, Mei admitted. I'm sorry. Ah, I see. Naruto couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed that this turned out to be so difficult. But I suppose you would have most chance if you asked someone from Tsunade, Mei frowned, thinking about the possibilities. Their village has by far the most Futon users, and an occasional Kaden user as well, so I suppose you would have the best odds at finding someone there who had been trying to combine Futon and Kaden. Okay. Naruto smiled. Thank you very much, Miss Mizukage. He stood up from his chair and bowed. Hold it, she smiled, as he stepped away from the chair. I thought I asked Haku to seek you out because I wanted to meet you, Mei chuckled. Naruto sat down, and scratched the back of his head, smiling away his embarrassment. My apologies, Miss Mizukage. I forgot, he admitted. There is no need for formalities, please, just call me Mei, Naruto-kun. I called you here for a completely different reason, Mei started, and she continued by explaining how the Hokage and Jiraiya had given her the scroll on the Uzumaki history that Naruto had found in Gado's treasury, back when he was on his mission in the Land of Waves. She told him that while the intelligence division of Konoha did not know how to crack the code, they had discerned that it was written for or even by the previous Mizukage, named Yugura. As such, and in the light of their new defensive alliance, Hiruzen hoped that her village could break the code and figure out what was written in the scroll. Translating this scroll was especially important because the truth about the fall of Uzushiogakure was shrouded, perhaps even literally, in mist. Still, the Mizukage argued that this scroll, by rights, should be the property of the last known survivor of the Uzumaki clan. As such, I ask your permission to take the scroll with me, when I leave for Kurigakure tomorrow, Mei explained. Right now, I do not have the means to decipher the scroll. Still, there is a chance that there is expertise in my village that could be tapped to translate it. Well, it might be about the history of my clan, Naruto frowned. But if our intelligence division can't do a thing with that scroll, I don't see what use it would be to keep the thing here. I know relations between Konoha and Kiri haven't really been perfect up till now, but I guess there is no risk to me entrusting you with that scroll, Naruto admitted. Right now, the scroll is useless, so I have nothing to lose, while it is also a good way to show the trust between our villages. So, while there is little to lose, there is a lot both of our villages could gain from it. Besides, if Hokage-sama and Jiraiya decided to trust you, who would I be to distrust you? Naruto smirked. He did not, however, want to add that he actually thought he could trust this woman. She didn't feel particularly evil, at least. It would not mean a lot, as there would be a lot more people involved in this matter, but at least the intentions of this woman were good. She was the leader of her village, so it would be worth the gamble. Thank you, Mei nodded. I appreciate this, especially because this might give us a chance to figure out the truth about the Yondaime Mizukage. There are suspicions that someone manipulated him. Perhaps with this scroll, we might find out if that really is true, and if so, who was behind it. No problem. Naruto frowned, feeling flooded with new information right now. Mei chuckled. It's almost a shame you aren't a couple of years older, she smiled. Why? Naruto said, somewhat offended. I'm not that weak, despite my age. I didn't mean your ability, but, never mind. Forget I said anything, Mei sighed, considering that it was not an appropriate subject for a 12-year-old anyway. Still, talking to him nearly made her forget Naruto was that young. She could only guess how his hardships had pushed him to grow up faster than other children. There were enough traumatized children in Kurigakure, but none seemed to be so different as this boy. I'll make sure that you are informed, if we get some information from your scroll, she promised, seeing her smile returned when the boy bowed. She's talking with the kid right now, and she's only supposed to be here at 11, Jiraiya answered his former sensei's question. All right. Well, after the treaty is signed, I can finally step down, Hiruzen said with an exhausted voice. Headache. Quite. It was a rather eventful night, so to say, Hiruzen sighed. Apparently it took 6 of my Anbu to stop a dispute between the wife and daughter of the Yamanaka clan leader. Why? I don't know. Inoichi was knocked out, presumably by his own wife, so I don't really know what happened. Wait, is that why Tsunade Haim was called away from the bar last night? That wounded Anbu. Wearily, Hiruzen nodded. Women. Jiraiya shuddered a little. Yeah, the most beautiful to behold, yet also the most dangerous. Reminiscing Bawako, Hiruzen could do little but agree. He loved his late wife with all his heart, but it didn't mean that he ever forgot the outbursts he had to suffer every now and then. And she was a very patient and reasonable woman, poor Inoichi. But, are you still planning on spilling the truth? Jiraiya frowned, changing the subject. I still believe it is too early, sensei. I know it is early, but it is not too early, it has to be done now. You know well enough that I don't have long to go, Jiraiya, and it is my duty. If he hears it from me, he can hate me all he wants. I don't want to burden my successor with that, Hiruzen said sadly. And Kami knows I deserve it. I was the one who made the mistakes, after all. And you are talking about succession again, Jiraiya mumbled. He was a little afraid of that subject and he really did not like talking about it. Especially after Hiruzen had shared his wishes with him. Have you decided who you are going to nominate? I think you already know. Hiruzen chuckled weakly. Tsunade refused, and is not in a state of mind to take over either, while Kakashi also made his intentions quite clear enough. Besides, he will be busy with Sasuke. Yeah, Kakashi will have his hands full with that brat. That kid really showed he has a lot to learn, well both of them, actually. Sasuke's overall performance was something that Kakashi should have dealt with, rather than giving him something as dangerous as the Chidori. His defects can't be solved by some stupid jutsu, Jiraiya said absently. Wait. If it is not those two, you're not telling me that you still want. Someone has to do it, Jiraiya. Hiruzen showed some of his resolve, despite his weakening condition. I have only a few more weeks to live at most. I wish to see to it that I leave Konoha in good hands before I go and you are the only one suitable for the position. I told you I don't want the hat. I refuse, Jiraiya waved his arms around in frustration. I told you that already, I'm the least suitable person for that job. Do you want Danzo to succeed me? Well, you know what will happen to Konoha if he succeeds me. Especially to Naruto, the consequences would be disastrous. Jiraiya grimaced. We'll talk about this later. After the Mizukage leaves, I have to escort Yugito and her team to the border, then we will see. In the meantime, I urge you to find someone else. I don't need to remind you that I already have plans for the upcoming years, do I? Did you know Itachi had been in Konoha yesterday? What? Jiraiya didn't hold back on showing his distress. How? Where? The remains of the fallen Akatsuki member have been destroyed, and it seems that his ring was also stolen. It was most likely Itachi's work. Hiruzen frowned. After that, one of the Anbu, Yamato, spotted him. What? Yamato? Jiraiya exclaimed. I appointed that one to guard Naruto. Yes, I know that. Hiruzen gestured to Jiraiya to calm down. Yamato reported to us that he had learned that they would start moving soon. And Itachi showed us how easily he could have taken Naruto. And we have no clue when they'll start moving. 1 year, 2 years, who knows, damn it. So this invasion was really their work. I suppose we should count ourselves lucky that their first move failed. Not really. Other reports said that one of Iwagakure's jinchuriki has vanished, only recently, Hiruzen revealed. I think it was their handiwork. But it shows that Konoha has to gather all its strength. Circling back to his earlier plan, Hiruzen continued, also, it is my reason to tell Naruto. They might be already aware, and use that knowledge against him. Damn it. I knew jinchuriki disappeared, but that it was Akatsuki, Jiraiya grimaced. Based on our previous intel, we would have at least 3 or 4 years before they would start to move in earnest. Yes. Now, before the Mizukage arrives, I will need to tell you more about Uchiha Itachi, Hiruzen started. With Yamato's relief Anbu trailing him, Naruto went to the mansion which would temporarily host Gaara and his siblings. Naruto would in effect be living there too, as he was their guard, he realized. However, he didn't mind the prospect of leaving the Hyuga compound for a while. The atmosphere there was quite uncharacteristically disheveled, with the brother and nephew of their clan leader in confinement, which only caused tensions between the main and branch houses to increase even more. No, Naruto did not mind living in another place, especially when his team would be joining him there. In their temporary residence on the edges of the Uchiha district, none could easily approach him or Hinata. The mansion itself had been abandoned since the Uchiha massacre, and was rather dusty, but with his clones, as well as with the efforts of Hyuga Akko, Naruto had managed to clean the building soon enough. Akko had been a bit disturbed when they entered one of the rooms on the second floor, where markings remained from where the bodies of the previous owners were found, along with some dark stains on the wooden floor. But aside from that room, they had made the house livable soon enough. It had enough rooms to house Naruto, Hinata, Kiba, as well as the Sand siblings, and Akko had also claimed a room, stating that she had gotten Hitomi's permission to look after both Naruto and Hinata. While Naruto was talking to the Mizukage, Kurenai and the rest of Team 8 had brought Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro to their new residence. At the same time, Naruto's clones were transporting all his stuff to the mansion. After all, Jiraiya had given him a lot of new study material, so Naruto would have a lot of studying to do before he could undo his unintentional mistake on Gaara's seal. Luckily, there was still enough time. The new seal that Naruto had placed around Gaara's seal confining the Ikibi worked a little too well. In other words, the seal allowed the creature's chakra no way out, removing its influence on Gaara, but also allowed a massive buildup of Ikibi chakra that would result in the seal eventually being overwhelmed, and eventually breaking. However, as the creature would also have a lot more trouble generating chakra, the process would take at least several months at least according to Jiraiya's estimations. Naruto would have to alter the seal within that time, before the demon would regain enough chakra for it to start getting dangerous. After all, with no way out, the concentration of chakra within the seal would eventually explode under the pressure, and this would likely be rather unhealthy for Gaara. The plan was to create a valve, using a method by which Gaara could regulate the release of the Ikibi's chakra himself. This so-called keyhole, through which the pressure could be released in a controlled way with a key, would allow Gaara to control the Ikibi rather than the other way around. It would allow Gaara to choose both when and how much of the Ikibi's chakra would be released. After all, he was a jinchuriki, whether he wanted to be or not. Completely sealing it all away would only cripple his abilities. The way Gaara's chakra was scrambled right now was only proof of how much he had used to rely on it, Naruto concluded. Right now, Sabaku no Gaara was vulnerable. It was a fact that they kept hidden, knowing that there would be many in Konoha who would like to exploit that weakness. It was especially important when Temari and Kankuro were ordered by Baki to not do a single thing that might endanger Tsunagaku's political position even further. It was the reason why Jiraiya had put Naruto on the task of protecting his fellow Jinchuriki, supported by Hinata and Kiba, and occasionally Kurenai when she was not out due to missions. Even while unaware of Gaara's temporary weakness, it was likely that some people within Konoha would aim their hatred and anger towards the three children of the former Kazekage. After all, many lives had been lost in the invasion, many would turn their hatred and sorrow on the three genin from Tsunagaku. Much as people hated Naruto for what had happened on the day Naruto was born, because he carried the Kyuubi. And they would view Gaara in a similar way. At least, this was what Naruto expected. Who knows what will happen when Ji-san steps down, Naruto speculated. After all, with his condition, it will only be a matter of time until he is naming his successor. And there would be a period of chaos if that happened, unless the successor was someone as exceptional as the Yondaime, or so Jiraiya had told Naruto. Despite the troubles, Naruto was happy when he walked back from the Mizukage's office towards the Uchiha district. Some distance away, a certain young girl was less happy. More tests. Karen whined. Shizune-Nisan, is that really necessary? It is, Karen-chan, the raven-haired young woman said decisively, urging her to calm down. But you said that I got my clearance yesterday, Karen pouted nonetheless. I did, but Tsunade-sama wanted to run a few more tests, after some of the tests in the last examination showed some unexpected results. It's nothing bad, is it? Of course it is not bad, Tsunade mumbled nearby. She was busy preparing some kind of machine that she used for analysis. Karen thought the thing looked rather scary, though. I just wanted to see something confirmed, that's all. What? Your DNA? Karen frowned, wanting to know more, but she knew that the legendary Senju wouldn't tell her, or else she would have done so by now. So, there was no other option than to wait while the two medics conducted their research. It was not anything stressful, just providing some blood samples while the machine was analyzing her chakra. So, she asked eventually. Seems like you were right, Tsunade-sama, Shizune smiled, watching over her master's shoulder while the machine showed them the results. Indeed I was. Imagine the odds of this happening. Is anyone going to tell me anything? Karen whined. What do you know about your past, Karen? Tsunade turned towards her. Karen sighed. I told you that last week. I was told my family died when my village was destroyed, and I was raised in an orphanage. The orphanage sold me to Kusa when one of their jonin visited the orphanage and noticed my ability for sensing. So you did not know your family name? No, just Karen. That's what they knew at the orphanage, Karen frowned. What is this about? Well, it seems we know your family name now, Tsunade smiled widely. And you have some living relatives after all. What? Karen's eyes nearly bulged out, drawing some laughter from Shizune, and a cheerful oink from Taunton, while Tsunade snorted in a rather unladylike fashion. Although I will kill you if you ever call me grandma or granny, you hear me, she said, pointing at Karen's chest. It's bad enough that the brat does that already. Ba-san. Wait, what? Don't tease the poor girl like that, Tsunade-sama, Shizune chided her master. The data has one clear result, Karen. There are two people who are. 1.5, Tsunade grumbled while rummaging through a nearby cabinet. Where did you hide my sake this time, Shizune? We need to celebrate this properly. Tsunade-sama. Karen is still underage, she isn't allowed to drink, Shizune sighed. She's a genin now, right? Tsunade smirked. Wasn't it a rule that when you're old enough to kill, you're old enough to drink? And people wonder why there are so many alcoholics in the hidden villages, Shizune thought. Anyway, as I was saying, Karen, your full name is. So, what are you doing here, Ino pig? Sakura grumbled, still standing in the opening of the front door. She was in a rather bad mood, not having slept very well, since being woken up early when her father came home in a rather intoxicated state, bad enough to fall from the stairs and wake the Pinkett. I just told you. You need some help getting things sorted out, so I'll stick with you for the time being, Ino replied. Sakura looked at her best friend and greatest rival with some suspicion. Then why do you look like you have gone through hell? I had a little difference of opinion with my mom, Ino admitted, but the tone with which she said it surprised Sakura. How come? Yuriko-san is always so friendly. She lied to me, Ino grunted. What did she tell you? Sakura frowned. I just don't want to see her for now, okay. A mother should not deceive her own daughter like that, she growled. I am not some damn tool for her to use for her own goals. Okay. Sakura hushed her, putting up her hands in surrender. Well, our guest room is always free for you, you know that. Now, why don't you go upstairs and sleep for a few hours? My dad is still unconscious, so it should be at least another few hours before he wakes up and notices how sick he feels. You'd think he'd learn from puking himself inside out every day, but no. But you go sleep, you look like you need it, at least. Ino decided to let the playful insult pass, and to follow her friend's advice. Thanks, Sakura. And sorry for my temper, the weary blonde sighed. It's fine, Sakura assured her. You know I'm used to your bad temper, she joked. And I to yours. Akamaru whined, standing in front of Kiba. Yeah boy, I know this is boring, Kiba sighed. The most eventful thing they did, being Kurenai, Hinata, Akamaru, and Kiba himself, was to escort Gaara and his siblings from the prison to the mansion within the Uchiha district. Kiba would rather think that it was annoying than to call it eventful, though. It was annoying because of all the stairs that went in Gaara's direction. The jinchuriki ignored them, as if used to such behavior, but Kiba felt a little unnerved by the animosity. Part of him wished that rather than giving hateful looks, one of the villagers would be stupid enough to attack, but the presence of Kurenai was enough to keep the people back. Although his sensei was relatively young and new as a jonin, her reputation was well known throughout the village. After all, she was the foremost genjutsu specialist of Konoha. But after they entered the estate, Kiba had gotten bored quickly. Gaara was completely impassive, and the only response he gave to one of Kiba's questions was that he was awaiting the arrival of Naruto. Why? Kiba had no idea. Naruto had told him that Gaara could be trusted, but Kiba still felt doubt. The other two of the Sand siblings were not much better. Hanata had taken Tamari upstairs, showing her fellow kunoichi around, while Kankuro was nearly hysterical because of all the overdue maintenance on his puppets. Kurenai had, after all, given them their weapons back, as neither the Hokage nor Jiraiya had believed that the two would form much of a threat. Gaara had just looked annoyed when his elder brother had cried tears of joy when he was reunited with his babies. Some muscles in Kiba's face still twitched when he thought about that scene. Even the corners of Gaara's mouth had moved a little, which Kiba assumed was Gaara's version of grimacing. I'd almost wish that Naruto hadn't sent an army of clones to clean this place up, Kiba grunted. It seems as if Uzumaki-san is a bit too thorough. Yes, Gaara replied. You talk. Quote. Well, you did for a moment, Kiba smirked. It's too late to deny it now. Come on, I know you can do it, just open your mouth and. You okay, Shika? A somewhat startled Choji wondered. Yeah, the Nara replied, rubbing his nose after sneezing rather loudly. That was a strong disturbance in the force. Someone must done or said something that was deemed extremely troublesome. Good thing that I wasn't around. Sorry for being late, sensei. Naruto startled his Jonin sensei by speaking up. Still tired, Kurenai sensei. After blinking a few times, the woman followed up with a particularly large yawn. Not much sleep, she mumbled. Yes, apart from the excess of missions that the shinobi had to deal with, or rather, the difficulty of trying to execute the same number of missions as before the invasion, despite a shortage of shinobi, Kurenai had enjoyed her evening and night a bit too much. The times where she and Asuma both had some time off at the same moment had become a bit rare. Well, it looks like you'd better go home and get some sleep then, Naruto suggested, a bit worried by the exhausted look on her face, thinking that she had gotten ill or something. He had noticed that she walked a little uncomfortably as well. The stamina of Jonin had its up and downsides, apparently. I suppose I might. But this is the first mission you get to lead as a Chunin, Naruto, Kurenai smiled. I'll be around as much as I can, but I have to take missions of my own while you three guard the trio from Tsunade. I'm sure you'll make me proud. Yeah, I'll try my best, Naruto smiled. We'll manage. I can't really imagine that anyone would be stupid enough to attack Gaara anyway, I mean, after the show we put up during the exams. But we might be lucky. You behave, you hear me? Kurenai warned him. Though, I made sure to order Hinata to keep you and Kiba from doing something too reckless. Hey, I'm not as reckless as the Hellfire Seal, nearly releasing the Kyuubi. Really, Naruto, you of all people, want to convince me that you are not reckless. Kurenai looked at him sternly. By the looks of it, Jiraiya-sama agreed with me, she resumed. Yeah, got another Anbu guy trailing me, although he refused to say why Yamato isn't around. I suppose he's on a mission. Too bad, I liked Yamato better. Kurenai shrugged, not knowing the answer to the man's absence either, and said goodbye to her team and the Sand siblings, a gesture which was only returned by Temari. Gaara seemed to be sleeping with his eyes open and Kankuro was still polishing his puppets, she noted. Naruto frowned a little upon seeing the puppeteer, but chose to remain silent. So, what's the plan? Akko took the last of my clones along with her to get some supplies. Akko. Temari frowned. Yeah, Hyuga Akko. She took care of Haruki and me. I live in the Hyuga compound, after all. Mother asked her to stay with us, Hanata said. Ko-san is currently out of the village due to missions though. Peef. As if he would be able to guard you any better than we can, Kiba boasted. Well, with two jinchuriki at one spot, something is bound to happen, Naruto sighed. I'm going to inspect the seals my clones placed earlier. Seals. Temari frowned, looking at Hinata, who seemed the most talkative to her. Is he a bit paranoid or something? He is a jinchuriki, Kiba sighed, answering before Hinata could. Yes, Kiba-kun is right, Naruto has always been a bit security conscious. So, I see Konoha is no better than Tsunade, Gaara remarked acidly, standing up and going outside to see Naruto. I was right, this clone ran dry before he could finish the inscription of the left corner. I'd better just rewrite this thing, or it'll be the weakest link of the 8, Naruto muttered. Got to find a way to give those clones a bit more resistance though, or I'll keep risking a mess up on a barrier. Expecting trouble, Gaara's dry voice sounded up. Perhaps, Naruto mumbled absently. He removed the seal and drew a new one in its place. Gaara remained silent and looked on in interest. After what we did during the finals, I have little doubt that a lot more people would rather see us die. I would rather avoid more incidents. It would only increase tensions. I suppose your village hates you as much as the people of Suna hated me. Gaara asks, rather interested in the history of his fellow jinchuriki. Naruto sighed. He activated the barrier, so that no one would be able to enter the grounds around the mansion without him knowing. I guess. I don't know how Suna is, but I can assure you that Konoha would be glad if I were gone, he said sadly. I'm a weapon to some, and to a select few I am Uzumaki Naruto, but to most I am just the demon that they need to hate and fear. Quote. Suna was just like that, I take it. They were mostly scared, terrified due to what I did, of what I could become. Makes sense, the Ikibi had quite some influence over you. Not just that, Gaara admitted. I was angry. I hated the world around me, wanted it to feel the same pain as I felt. What I did, it wasn't only because of Shukaku, it was also my own anger. Naruto looked at his fellow jinchuriki and saw the hesitation underneath the boy's stoic facade. He pointed at a rather run-down part of the garden. It wasn't much, but at least they could take a seat and have some privacy. Naruto signaled the Anbu to keep his distance, before he began talking again. I suppose I can understand your position, but I bet Suna treated you differently considering you were the Kasuke's son. Perhaps, I was his weapon, that was how I was born. What do you mean by that? Naruto frowned. Aren't biju sealed within children? I heard something like that once, because otherwise the chakra coils would never develop enough to sustain a biju's chakra. I am different. After a previous failure, My father and his researchers thought it best to try a new approach, Gaara said in an emotionless tone. When my mother became pregnant with me, my father had them test my DNA. I was compatible, considering that I had the potential to inherit my father's Jiten, his magnet release. After they figured that out, they sealed Shukaku within me. Naruto spurred his eyes open. Wait, before you were even. Before I was born, yes, Gaara continued. It led to some complications. I was born prematurely, and my mother did not survive the process. Not that father ever seemed very bothered about it. And they call us monsters, the damn hypocrites, Naruto growled. How could a father do such a thing to his kid? How could a husband kill his own wife? The Kyuubi was right when he said humans can be worse than any demon. Then, may I ask something? Sure, Gaara, ask whatever you want to. I mean, you're pretty much the closest thing to family that I have. Gaara blinked, and looked at Naruto. Family. Yeah, Naruto sighed. It's just, there are so few of us. We are jinchuriki. We are neither really human, nor are we the biju we hold within us. The way I see it, you may not be my family by blood, but you share the same burden. I see, Gaara smiled a bit. But, what I intended to ask, you seem to hate humans as much as I do, so why would you save them? Why do you intend to lead them? They're not all bad, you know, Naruto chuckled a bit. Even if I don't care about the majority, there are a few who are special enough to give my life for. My friends, people like Hinata, or Kiba, make life worth living. Those you wish to protect, Gaara nodded in understanding. Yeah, but even amongst those friends, there were those who first feared me. They changed, little by little, and eventually accepted me for who I am. So yes, I do intend to lead them. I would like to create a world where children don't have to suffer a fate like ours. The world or the village? Well, gaining a position within the village would be a first step on the road to changing the world, don't you think? Naruto scratched his chin. I mean, it's not like other villages would just welcome me with their open arms. And even if they did, Konoha would declare war on them because I'm the village's weapon. So we are bound to our villages, Gaara agreed. Whether we want it or not. Whether they want us or not. Well, a village isn't completely bad, is it? Naruto smiled. I mean, I have friends in Konoha, and you have Kankuro and Temari in Tsunade. I don't know if you have any more friends or family. I had an uncle, but other than that I do not know if I have any family, Gaara pondered. Though, I suppose that if I had more family they would rather distance themselves from me. Temari didn't. Despite it all, she still believed that there was good in you. I murdered my uncle, Gaara said, looking up to the gray clouds in the sky. My father, when he and his council deemed my experiment to be a failure, he decided to have me killed. The first assassin he sent after me was disguised. I never knew until my uncle's mask fell off, and the explosive tags went off before I could process what he said. As always, my san protected me from physical pain at least. That's horrible, Naruto said softly, pitying the jinchuriki for what they had forced him to do. I'm sorry. After that day, I swore to never trust another person again, to only trust my own power. My uncle raised me, taught me, said that he loved me, and still he tried to. He could have refused my father's order, he told me so himself, but he accepted the mission anyway because he thought that I was responsible for killing my mother. How could he think like that? It was your father who. It seems like reason is the first thing that is killed during a panic. I swore I would one day kill my father, to avenge my mother, and to repay him for making me kill the one person who seemed to care about me. It was what Shukaku told me over and over, Gaara sighed. And then you showed up, managed to defeat me and silence Shukaku, and the man that I hated died by a stranger's hand. I still do not know if I am supposed to be thankful to Orochimaru for killing my father, or hate him for taking away my chance to kill my father with my own hands. Revenge does not solve anything though, Naruto asserted. Perhaps, but I imagine that getting revenge would have felt good even without Shukaku messing around. Yeah, it does, Naruto smirked. But it is dangerously easy to get caught up in such hatred. My first opponent during the finals, Hyuga Neji, was so consumed by his hatred that he failed to see the truth with those gifted eyes of his. I don't want to be blinded like that. He nearly killed your teammate. Yes, and I would have killed him for that. What stopped you from doing that? It is not like there are many who could stop you, Gaara asked him, surprised that Naruto would spare someone he wanted to kill. To Gaara, all those he wanted to kill, died. Well, there were a few exceptions, like his father and Naruto, who were too strong for him to defeat. Hinata. She begged me to spare Neji's life. She understood better than I that Neji was consumed by a cycle of events that more or less forced Neji into hating Hinata, who belongs to the main house of their clan. So you spared him because she asked you? Gaara queried. Yes. Although, I also think that she is right. She told me that people can change, that they can overcome their hatred. Hinata explained that Neji was as much a victim as she was. Yet you gravely injured him. I would have torn him apart if it wasn't for Hinata's wish, Naruto grinned wolfishly. But there was still a price that he had to pay, both for his past actions and for his future freedom. You see, I removed the seal that allowed those of the main house to control branch house members like him. But if I had done it without messing him up, the elders of the Hyuga clan would have realized that I could undermine the foundation of their power. I didn't want to start that war. Yet. So you changed the fate of Hyuga Neji by removing his seal, and now you hope that he will abandon the path he was on, Gaara summarized. That is what Hinata seemed to think. If nothing else, I am curious to see how it will turn out. I suppose I would like to see if Neji can change. Because, if there is hope for someone who has fallen as far as he did, then there might be hope for us all. Jiraiya Sensei may be the greatest pervert alive, but he does teach a few useful things. He told me once that he believes that the world is controlled by a large cycle of hatred, a cycle in which each action driven by hatred would only create more hatred. He didn't know how to break that cycle, but I think Hinata showed me the way to do it. So by changing a person's world you think the cycle would end? It's worth a try, isn't it? Naruto shrugged. I suppose it's better than just doing nothing and allowing this chaos to continue. But, if we want to cause such a change, it will require a tremendous amount of power, or else it will be impossible to drag people away from their hatred. Look at Neji. What causes his pain is the way his clan functions, but those who have power profit the most from the current system, and would never willingly change it. And that's just one clan. I think that the hatred is deeply rooted within our traditions, our systems, and our entire history. Like how Iwagakure still hates Konoha for what happened in the Third Ninja War, Gaara nodded in agreement. All those grudges, it would require a radical change for anyone to move beyond that. That's why I told you, Naruto chuckled. We Jinchuriki have more power than anyone. We could lead the world to a better future. And here I thought you were a realist, Gaara said with a completely deadpan expression. Sorry to disappoint, Naruto smirked. But I don't plan on only chasing ideals. I want to make them real. How? Well, if I'm honest, I have to admit I am used to killing whatever opposes me. But I know that violence isn't the answer to each problem I encounter. Lucky for you, Naruto chuckled. No, I figure that if I want to change problems, the first thing that needs to be dealt with is the inequality between and within villages. The world we live in is rotten, that's why I want to become Hokage, because if I can take the hat I can change this village, and through it the world. Though before all that, people like us need to have control of our own powers. If our Biju keep undermining us, then we will never be able to lead others. Gaara nodded. Perhaps I should aim for the position of Kazekage if Naruto wishes to become Hokage. Together we would have a lot more power, perhaps enough to bring forth the change he dreams of. If it prevents people from us being created, it would be worth trying. Where are the others? Naruto asks, when he came back inside. Gaara still sat outside in the garden, pondering over the things Naruto told him. The two Jinchuriki agreed that something had to change in their world, and knew that if they learned how to control the powers of their respective bijus, they would have a chance at achieving it. But the how to do it question remained lingering. They're out shopping. Temari went out along with the Hyuga girl and dog boy, Konkuro explained absent-mindedly. Yes, he was still entranced by his puppets. They will be home before 5. At least that is what they said. You know, girls and shopping, I bet Dog Boy is already regretting that he agreed to go along, he chuckled. Naruto shrugged. It was fine to him, the seals around perimeter were set, so he went to his room to organize all the scrolls he moved from his cottage to this place. Well, that would happen after he had placed the appropriate seals throughout his room. A while later, Naruto felt someone entering the perimeter, and before he could react he heard some very angry, though still familiar, screams. Rushing outside, Naruto saw the Anbu guard restraining a severely annoyed Karen. "Calm down, Anbu-san," Naruto warned, not particularly liking the man in the first place. He easily saw that their assailant was nowhere near a threat to them, and he had little doubt that the Anbu could see that. "It's Karen, she can be trusted." The Anbu looked at him, then shrugged and returned to the shadows. "What the hell was that?" "Well, we weren't informed you would come, and that guy is guarding this place." "Wow, so I'm an intruder." Karen pouted. Naruto laughed at her. "Depends on what you want. Kiba isn't here though." "Why would you think I came here for Kiba-kun?" Karen suddenly seemed to have a lot of trouble with keeping her glasses on the right position, judging by how she conveniently covered her blush with the hand that readjusted said spectacles. "Do you even need to ask?" Naruto deadpanned. "Anyway, why are you already here? Kurenai-sensei didn't say you would come so soon. I thought the whole processing thing would last another week." He frowned a bit when he saw the rather insecure look in her eyes when she looked at him. "Well," she said, stepping forward, "I need to tell you something." Meanwhile, Temari, Hinata, and Kabi, with Orochimaru on top of his head, were in the shopping district. Though the sight of the Suna Kunoichi wasn't exactly a welcome one to most, and some even attempted to overcharge her whenever she bought something, no one ever tried something when they saw the daughter of the Hyuga clan leader and the son of the Inuzuka clan leader. Thus, their shopping went pretty well. Thanks to the Hokage, the siblings had received some spending money, and Temari certainly wanted to replace or repair her red sash. She found a rather unexpected ally in Hanata, for whom shopping was a very rare event. After all, the Hyuga main family wouldn't do such trivial thing, but would rather order a member of the branch to do it for them. As such, the young heiress had only had a handful of experiences to fall back on when it came to shopping for clothes. Kiba, being the alpha male he was, reluctantly accepted his fate and sauntered after the too cheerful Kunoichi. Even Orochimaru whined to express his boredom. The boredom was eventually ended by a rather strange sight. A young boy with a blue scarf, whom Kiba and Hinata quickly recognized as Konohamaru, was imprisoned in a strangling hold by a snake. However, the snake wasn't actively strangling the boy. In fact, the creature had an equally baffled look on his face. In front of the boy and the snake was a rather terrified female jonin. One who suffered a Byakugan-enhanced angry stare, accompanied by a lengthy lecture on why she should not use snakes against innocent children. But that brat isn't innocent," Anko pouted. "I don't care," Akko replied sternly. "Using summons to attack children is wrong." "Calm down, Akko-chan. I won't. Iruka-kun, if there is one thing I learned from living with Naruto-kun, it would to draw a line and to never allow him to cross that line. This woman went too far." "Ooh." Anko looked knowingly. "Iruka-kun." Akko blushed, yet her stern look survived the bout of embarrassment. "Yes, and what's it to you?" The three genin and the ninkin watched as the scene unfolded in front of them. "I suppose we should finish shopping early," Kiba suggested. "Perhaps that would be wise," Temari agreed. "We can always look for a new sash tomorrow," Hanata said. "What? I thought you already had two." "Not a red one." Temari cut him off, giving him a look that said that negotiation was off the table regarding that subject. As they walked back through the abandoned Uchiha district, Temari felt a bit surprised by the complete absence of people. Sasuke's older brother, Itachi, killed the entire clan, Kiba explained when she asked. She would have liked to ask more, but they had arrived at their new home. The sight that met their eyes was enough to distract her from asking further questions. What they saw made Temari smirk, Kiba scowl, and Hinata, well, she had to resist a sudden urge to go on a killing frenzy. Even to a girl as kind and patient as Hyuga Hinata, there was a certain limit regarding what she could tolerate from others. This time that limit had been crossed. "What are you doing to Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked icily, subconsciously activating her Byakugan, when she saw Karen embracing a surprised Naruto. Bonus. Cats are Ninako. 1 week ago. All 5 cats were in their new hideout in the abandoned Uchiha district, and 3 of them were rather exhausted. Well, that was pathetic, Pseudo remarked. How could we know they would be there too? Zero panted. And those 3 kept chasing us. Good thing those dogs aren't very flexible, but their speed. You two were slow, Tora remarked rather haughtily. Right, like you were any better, ribbon 4-leg, Chi grumbled. Chi-sama is right, Pseudo chuckled. You 3 are pathetically slow. Perhaps they need training from a proper ninako. Chi suggested. Why you don't want me to? Yeah, you're always bragging about how superior you are, so why not train us? Zero chimed in. Can we get something to eat first? Poor Sakana was starving. Today. Now, let's see if your training regime has paid off, Pseudo remarked. Training. That was torture, not training. Ah, don't worry you short tails, once we're done with you no one will be able to stop us, Chi grinned. What is the plan, Chi-sama? Zero sighed. There is a certain dog who deserves some payback. You are enjoying this, aren't you? Chi sighed, looked at the elder male cat who was roaring with laughter as he listened to the pleading of their comrades. How could I not? This is priceless, all 4 of them are getting dragged back to their owners. You planned it to happen exactly like this, didn't you? We got that white-furred pup, didn't we? At the cost of 3 of my servants. They'll be back, after they get their punishment from their owners. Besides, Tora is notorious enough on her own, and Zero was smart enough to make it look like that dog was chasing him and Sakana into that butcher shop. They won't get into trouble. He is smart, I'll give him that, Chi admitted. Though after the chaos in their house, I doubt their owners will be very pleased. But we failed. The plan was to frame Orochimaru and get away with the meat ourselves. Don't look at me, I knew they needed more training, Pseudo chuckled. Then why didn't you tell me so? Chi seethed. Well, now they know it, don't they? The hardest lessons usually leave the greatest impressions. You are evil, you know that. Itachi-sama had a habit of telling me that. Sasuke-san says it even more often, Pseudo smirked. Teach them chakra manipulation when they escape their masters again, Chi sighed. I need to get back, or Akkoheim will be angered. And remember, keep your filthy habit of peeing on stuff out of. Yeah, I won't go and correct the humans that live there now, Pseudo sighed. Chapter 42. Night. What are you doing to Naruto-kun? Hinata demanded, with an icy voice. She had subconsciously activated her Byakugan, her stare piercing through her opponent. The redhead had gone too far by embracing Naruto, who seemed completely surprised by the whole situation. Hanata. Naruto felt a little shocked at the sight of her reaction to the embrace. No, scratch that, it wasn't just a little. He had never seen the young Hyuga heiress angry before, so he was completely baffled. Karen, on the other hand, had no such thoughts. I'm giving Naruto a hug, what's it to you? She replied, not liking the tone that Hinata used one bit. Tamari looked at each of the players and didn't understand the situation at all. Hinata was furious, Naruto was confused, Kiba just stared dumbly at the scene with a twitching eye, and the newcomer, an unknown red-haired girl, seemed to be indignant about the way Hinata had spoken. As if what she had done was perfectly normal. I don't know what is going on, but perhaps we need to calm down and talk this out. Tamari tried to pacify the situation. I'm just giving Naruto a hug, there's no reason for that blue head to freak out like that, Karen retorted. Said blue-haired girl eyed the red-haired girl like she wouldn't mind using the Juken on her. In the moment of silence that followed, one that eerily resembled a classic standoff, Naruto managed to recover. Karen, is that really true? Looking back at the blonde, Karen nodded. Tsunade-sama said so herself. She was the one who found out after all. Naruto suddenly smiled and looked at Karen as if she was the most amazing thing in the world. Well, to say that it was the last thing I expected to happen is an understatement, I always thought I was the last. So did I. Karen smirked back. Can you explain, before these two lose their patience? Tamari suggested. Allow me to introduce Uzumaki Karen, Naruto smiled. Hinata completely misunderstood his words, and paled, as if her whole world had collapsed and she nearly collapsed along with it. Yeah, who would have thought I would find a surviving member of my clan, Karen chuckled. I didn't even know I had a clan in the first place. Wait, so, that's why you and Naruto? Hiba started. Oh, of course, Karen blushed, suddenly realizing he might have misinterpreted the sight of her hugging Naruto. She did not want the Inuzuka to think that she was fickle. Oh, Hiba let the realization sink in. Having switched from fury to being horrified and back again, Hanata had gone through the full emotional spectrum already when she realized how she had misunderstood the entire situation and had embarrassed herself. I am sorry, she squeaked before she rushed inside the mansion, passing the two Uzumaki. However, Karen could have sworn that the girl's face was even redder than her own hair. What was that about? Ooh, she realized. Hanata, Naruto called. Karen stopped him from walking after her though. Karen. Just give her some space, she smiled knowingly. Naruto could only nod dumbly, not understanding what had gotten into the Hyuga girl just now. So, how did they figure out you two were related? Temari wondered. Tsunade-sama saw some strange values when she was examining my chakra, and when she checked my blood she figured that I was an Uzumaki. How could Ba-san know that? Well, she said her grandmother was an Uzumaki, making her part Uzumaki herself. I thought you knew that already, considering how you call her Ba-san and all, Karen explained, seeing Naruto's baffled look. So that drunk is family. I suppose I should call her Ba-chan now, Naruto mused. You know she'll kill you for that, don't you? Karen deadpanned. She is free to try, Naruto chuckled. So, Karen once again started to blush a little. How should I address you now? I always dreamed of having a brother, she admitted shyly. The girl had always been a bit jealous of those around her with family of their own, while she had always been alone while living in the orphanage, and alone while living in Kusagaku. Well, at this point it doesn't seem not very likely either of us will find out who our parents are, nor how they were related to each other, Naruto scratched his chin. It would take some time getting used to this though, Karen, Nei-chan. This time Kiba could smile when he saw Karen jumping at his teammate. For a moment I thought that he marveled to himself. Akko eventually arrived at the mansion that afternoon and the others wisely kept their distance from the Hyuga woman. The only things they learned was that some snake bimbo had had the audacity to ruin her fun. When Naruto asked who this snake bimbo was, or who Akko had so much fun with, knowing all too well who it had been, she snapped at him and threw him out of the kitchen. He had intended to help her preparing their dinner, but he felt that it would be wise to keep his distance for now. So instead of helping her, he joined the others in the living room. Kankuro was still in his corner, bent over his puppets. The only thing Kiba had gotten out of him was that those idiots had treated Karasu too roughly, and some complaints about not having access to the right type of oil. After that, the decision to leave him alone was unanimous. She's still angry. Kiba smirked, looking at Naruto. Very. Akko isn't someone who gets angry very quickly, but once she is pissed she won't easily calm down either, Naruto sighed. Last time I saw her angry like that was when Haruki tried to teach me shogi. How could you get her that angry with a simple board game? Temari frowned. Naruto smiled, still feeling a bit embarrassed. I was experimenting on a certain jutsu at the time. It kinda screwed up my power and coordination. So, when I tried to move one of the pieces, I accidentally threw it away. The damn thing flew through a few walls and beheaded a carrier pigeon. Poor bird. Kiba snorted in laughter, and even Hinata giggled a little, finally breaking out of her fit of embarrassment. She got so angry at me and Haruki that she forbade him to ever try teaching me shogi again, and I had to swear not to mess around with that particular technique until I was very sure I would be able to control it. Well, if I recall correctly that happened only a week after the gardening incident, Hinata giggled. So perhaps that was why she was a little irritable. Please don't remind me. What happened? Karen looked at her downcast. Brother. I had to dig out a patch of soil. You know, so they could plant new flowers and a few trees. It was a rather boring task, but I insisted on doing it because I refused to look like some freeloader. Still, it was boring, so I tried a futon jutsu to speed it up a little. I might have used a bit too much chakra though, he admitted. Even Gaara showed a weak smile. So, how is the whole admittance thing going? Hiba asked Karen. Good. It's just well, they offered me a place at the barracks until the whole paperwork thing is done, and I can join your team. So after I found out Naruto is my family, I came here in the hope that I could, well, I'm not sure if you have a spare room, Karen blushed. I don't want to intrude. I understand if you don't want me to. I'll go back to the barracks if. You're my Nei-chan now, aren't you? Naruto remarked. What kind of shitty brother would I be if I wouldn't even give you a place to live? Besides, there are enough rooms left, of course you can stay. How the food was delicious, the atmosphere during dinner remained a bit awkward. Perhaps it was Akko's earlier rant on a certain Jonin who had been attempting to abuse the Hokage's grandson. Naruto gave Chi a pointed look, or perhaps it was because due to Naruto asking why Hinata had been so angry at Karen. That did not help with improving the atmosphere either. Still, I don't see why Hinata would get angry at that. I've never seen her like that before, it must be some girl thing, just like Ino and Sakura who always are fighting yet still are the best of friends. I certainly hope Karen and Hinata won't start acting like that though, Naruto mused. Needless to say, Naruto didn't even come close to the truth. Why Hinata had been so angry was obvious to most. Well, except for Konkuro, who didn't notice as his puppets required his full attention, and Gaara. Gaara found it all amusing and interesting, but just like Naruto he had no clue as to why the others behaved like that. Then again, he probably had even less experience with normal social interaction than Naruto unless one could consider people begging him to spare their lives as social interaction. The good thing was that Karen was too happy to be bothered by Hinata's earlier behavior. Before all this, she had nothing. She was just a random orphan, bought by Kusugakure and trained to become a genin, with her most likely future being to marry, whether she wanted to or not, as soon as she could bear children. After all, Kusa had bought her for the bloodline that provided her sensory abilities. Now she had been freed from that, after staring death in the eyes. She had found family, friends, and even a home. Even if she knew the place where they lived was only a temporary solution, to her it was even better than okonomiyaki. This savory pancake was, in her opinion, the food fit for gods. But even such delicious food couldn't beat her new way of life. Her good fortune gave her lots of opportunities to be close with Kiba, the one who had saved her, the one who had started all these changes in her life. With everyone lost in their own train of thought, Naruto decided to bring up a different subject. Namely, the Kekkei Genkai that were found in Tsunade, and more specifically those that combined Futon and Kaden. After all, it was the best lead he had on the subject, after getting that information from the Mizukage herself. You want to combine your affinities for wind and fire, Tamari frowned. Not sure if that could be done. A Kekkei Genkai is an ability of the blood, not something which can be copied, Gaara agreed. But suppose one would have skill enough with two elements, wouldn't it be possible to replicate an elemental Kekkei Genkai? That would require an insane amount of control, Tamari mused. I'd say that it's impossible. Even if I knew of anyone who had a Kekkei Genkai that combined Futon and Kaden, reproducing it would be something incredibly complex. Pakura, Gaara said. The hero of the hidden sand, Shikuden no Pakura, Gaara's dry voice sounded up. His siblings looked at him. She was my teacher for a little while, before she died in battle. Shikuden, Naruto mumbled. What is this scorch release exactly? It was from before father changed his opinion on me, and still provided me with the best tutors Suna could offer, Gaara explained calmly, not really wanting to go into detail about the assassination attempts. I don't really know what Pakura-sensei could do, considering how I was only 6 years old, but I am sure father would not hire someone who wasn't able to deal with my disposition. Pakura, I heard that name somewhere, Konkuro mused. Wasn't she the one who got killed in that ambush from Kiri? Gaara nodded. I suppose we could ask Baki-sensei for more information, Tamari suggested. But if you want to learn how to combine two types of chakra, you would first need to master each element completely. And frankly, you still have a lot to learn when it comes to Futon. Great, more training on chakra control, Naruto said, a bit horrified by the prospect. There are a few ways to improve your control, Temari chuckled. I will teach you what I can while I'm here. What? Kankuro nearly fell of his seat when he heard his sister's proposal. Temari, you can't be serious. You can't teach Suna techniques to a Konoha shinobi. No offense, kid. And Baki-sensei would never hand out any secret techniques from Pakura either. It is the least we can do to repay him for all he did, Temari said. He made Gaara sane again, when he could have killed us all. If Naruto hadn't stopped him, we could have been at war right now. How much would that hurt Tsunade, Kankuro? You saw we wouldn't stand a chance. Suna is too weak for an all-out war. But to teach him our techniques, to help him in his futon mastery, Temari. If Temari doesn't do it, I will. Gaara cut his elder brother off before he could continue. You're crazy, Kankuro grumbled. So you told me before, Gaara said with a deadpan expression. Besides, while we wait for Naruto to figure out a way how to fix my seal, we might as well do something in return. Fix. Hinata asks. Is there still something wrong? She wondered, looking directly at Naruto for the first time that evening. I may have made the seal a bit too well, Naruto sighed. What it boils down to is that while I sealed the Ikibi completely, there is also no way for its chakra to leave. So, while it slowly gathers chakra, considering how most of its abilities are blocked, there will also inevitably be a point where the seal can't handle the amount of chakra sealed within it. That doesn't sound good, Karen frowned. Naruto will fix it, Kiba boasted. Even Jiraiya-sama praised his ability at Fuinjutsu. Meh, I'm not that great, Naruto said. I have still so much to learn. Besides, beyond my Fuinjutsu I'm not that skilled. When I'm having some bunshin working on how to improve your seal, I would be able to improve my control over wind chakra at the same time. Naruto's Kage Bunshin no Jutsu creates solid clones, Hinata explained to a confused Karen. Unlike regular clones, the shadow clones transmit their memories back to him upon being dispelled. The backlash is a bitch though, Naruto sighed. Language, Akko warned him. And you better not start doing any reckless things this time. Hitomi-sama ordered me to keep an eye on you, and I sure plan to do so. Just as much as I'm going to confine a certain cat if I find out she had anything to do with what happened to poor Konohamaru. Yes, Akko-sama, she and Naruto replied simultaneously. Gaara raised a non-existing eyebrow. Is this the same person who was talking about changing the world? Corpses. Everywhere he looked, he saw the bodies of his fallen clansmen, his friends, his family. Why? Why did this happen? And who could have done this? Father. Mother. A raven-haired child shouted, running towards his home as fast as his young legs could carry him. Reaching the door of the living room, the boy froze. Sasuke, don't come in, he heard his father say. The boy couldn't move. No matter how much he wanted to, his body wouldn't respond. He then heard a thump as if something fell to the ground, followed by the rattle of someone he couldn't see. He knew that no matter where he would go, that sound would haunt him forever. After what seemed to be minutes, young Uchiha Sasuke finally gathered the courage to open the doors. The world seemed to fall apart when he saw what had happened. His mother lay dead on the ground with his father's corpse lying over her. There were smears of blood on the ground, and some signs of fighting, but what preoccupied Sasuke most of all was the man standing in the center of the room. As the man doffed his mask, Sasuke saw the man who had killed his parents. He screamed and cried at his brother. Why? Why did you do this? That was foolish of you, little brother. Panting, and bathing in sweat, Uchiha Sasuke woke up in his apartment. Itachi, he gasped. Even after all these years, Sasuke still couldn't fathom it. Why had his brother turned against his family? I'll make you pay. I'll make you suffer for each Uchiha life you ended that night, he declared to the darkened room. Looking up, disturbed from his sleep, a cat meowed to voice its annoyance. Sasuke grumbled something unintelligible back, and tried to catch some sleep again but could not. He could never forget how his older brother took away everything he held dear. He couldn't forgive himself for being too weak to stop Itachi, and he was still weak. He still felt the pain from Kakashi's arguments, when the Jonin explained how Naruto and even that lazy Nara had earned their promotions, and how Sasuke was still unworthy of promotion. Sasuke felt frustrated that he wasn't stronger. He lacked the power he needed. At his age, Itachi had been leagues above him in terms of power. Sasuke knew he had to figure out a way to get stronger. Vengeance. At the cost of everything, he would find a way to get stronger. The first step on that path would be to remove the constricting seal Naruto had placed around his new source of power. Even though the damn thing hurt him even at that very moment, Sasuke could not ignore the memory of the incredible power it had given him in the Forest of Death. It was a power that could match Itachi's. I'll show you the strength of my hatred when I find you, brother. Some distance away, but in the same district, there was someone else who had trouble getting to sleep. What did I do? Hinata asked herself over and over. She still felt panicked when she thought back at how she had lost composure in front of everyone, in front of Naruto. And how can I explain to him why I got angry? If only I had known that Karen was related to Naruto-kun, perhaps if I had known that I wouldn't have lost it like that when I saw her hugging Naruto. The young Hyuga sighed. Sure, she hated how people looked at Naruto, but a part of her acknowledged the one advantage it gave her, namely that she did not have any competition. She had seen how some girls acted to get the attention of the boy they loved. And the more girls that were chasing one boy, the more brazen they would get. She gulped. For a moment I thought Karen would steal Naruto-kun away. I was jealous, she admitted to herself. Hinata knew that things were changing for them. Naruto had beaten Gaara in front of everyone, and while Hinata was happy that Naruto finally got some of the recognition he deserved, she also knew that it would mean that more people would become interested in him. Even worse was that he had shared his secret about the Kyuubi with their classmates, she fretted. Hinata was incredibly happy that they responded it positively, seeing how much it meant for Naruto. But another part of her, the jealous part that she tried to suppress as much as she could, was annoyed that more people came to know the real Naruto. She saw how Tenten reacted, and felt a bit worried because that girl and Naruto were always so remarkably close. Hinata knew that Naruto could relate to the discrimination which her cousin's teammate faced, due to her being clanless. But it didn't take away the fact that Hinata wished she could act as naturally and confidently around Naruto as Tenten could. Another threat came from an unexpected corner. Ino had always been one of the most fanatic among the fangirls that chased Sasuke, but the way she responded upon learning that Naruto carried the Kyuubi within him bothered the Hyuga. The Yamanaka seemed to take it very personally that Naruto had been mistreated due to his burden as a jinchuriki. Tenten is incredibly skilled compared to me, and Ino-chan is always so pretty and confident. I'm too plain looking compared to both her and Tenten-san. I've got nothing to offer that would enable me to compete with girls like them, Hinata's pessimistic thoughts surged. Despite the growing sense of urgency she felt, Hinata wasn't sure how to tell Naruto her true feelings about him. She was unsure whether she was even capable of telling him in the first place, putting aside the question of whether or not it would be wise to confess. Would this risk the friendship we finally have? She wondered. If I told him how I feel, would he turn me down? Would that break our friendship? Also having trouble sleeping, Gaara said, startling Naruto, who had slipped out of the building. Yeah, not sure why, but I'm too restless to sleep, Naruto admitted. Damn moon, he muttered when he looked up. Gaara looked at the full moon, and smiled faintly. While I have had my troubles with sleeping on regular nights for a long time, Shukaku was always in the most violent moods whenever it was a full moon. Something about the moon seemed to agitate it, Gaara explained. I haven't been able to look at the moon for over a year, knowing that if I did, it would mean my losing control. So that is the reason. It surprises you, Gaara declared. Well, never noticed that it was caused by the Kyuubi, Naruto smiled it away. But I'm leaving for an hour or so be careful. Why? Naruto blinked. Well, someone might try to attack you, Kankuro, or Temari. Aren't they your family? Quote. You are no longer alone, Gaara. Gaara nodded. I suppose I never was. Even though I never realized it. I see that Temari made her point clear enough. Now that Shukaku's voice is silenced, Temari has become hard to ignore. Yes, Gaara remarked dryly. But you were the one who gave me a new life. And after that, you gave me a new goal. Naruto squinted. Did you inform your Anbu guard that you are leaving? I remember him saying he was going to sleep for a few hours. I'd rather not. I mean, just because he has sworn loyalty to the Hokage doesn't mean that I am going to trust the guy completely. I'll trust his loyalty to Konoha, but right now, my business has little to do with Konoha. Well, I'll be back before you know it. If anything disturbs the barriers, I'll know it immediately, so don't worry. Gaara looked as he saw his fellow jinchuriki leap across the roofs. So his aversion to the moon is a new development. That would mean the Kyuubi's influence is growing, and judging by how he avoided talking about it, he knows that as well. Gaara sighed and looked up once more. He decided to trust Naruto. But even with the confines of the new seal, Gaara could feel Shukaku's restlessness. What is it about the moon that agitates the Biju that much? Gaara didn't know the answer, so he went inside. Being deprived of sleep for years, he found it to be rather addictive, now that he finally could do it. Sneaking in was actually pretty simple. Naruto was a bit surprised that there weren't more guards stationed. Then again, knowing the Hyuga's tendencies with binding seals, I shouldn't be too surprised. Well, it was home turf anyway, he conceded to himself. Yo, wake up sunshine, Naruto exclaimed, while slapping a sleeping Neji on the head. The latter did not find it so amusing. Neji moved so that he sat on his bed, facing Naruto seated in the solitary chair that the otherwise empty cell contained. Here to finish the job. Depends, Naruto said, smirking at the Hyuga, who narrowed his eyes. Then do it. Stop toying with me and get it over with, Neji grumbled. I promised Hinata that I would spare your life during the finals. The finals are over, and you are still alive. Technically, I would not have to break my word if I decided to kill you right now, but I know that such a technicality would not matter, not to her at least. Hinata would never forgive me if I killed you now, Naruto said, perfectly calm. Though I still might do so, if it turns out you are still aiming to kill her. I'd rather be hated by her, than allow you to be a threat to her life. Why would I do that? Neji's voice was surprisingly lifeless, causing Naruto to frown. Explain. You were the one behind the murders and the disappearances within our clan, and a few of those I have seen myself. I know for a fact that they were the ones who opposed Hinata-sama in her position as heir the most. Not all of them, but your point is. You removed those that were a threat to Hinata-sama, and those people became a threat because they believed Hinata-sama was dangerous to them. And what makes you say that? Naruto smiled, liking the Hyuga prodigy's train of thought. Hinata-sama is considered to be too soft and gentle, emotionally too weak to lead our clan. Yet that is no reason for people to kill her. No, they fear her because she is emotionally stronger than anyone in our clan. If she had been weak, she would never have forgiven me. And if she is kind enough to forgive even someone who did what I did, I presume she wouldn't condone the injustice against the branch house either. True. As I told you before, she would never want to harm the branch. That makes her a big threat to many within the main house, as their wealth and power depends on their grip on the branch. Without their slaves, the prosperity of the main house would dwindle, and all their self-righteous crap about the power of blood and genetic purity would be proven wrong overnight. They are probably weaker than the branch, if they did not parasitize from their secret techniques. You yourself have proven that the branch is easily capable of overpowering the main house. Yet I was blind and used my talent for the wrong cause, Neji admitted with a sad voice. Perhaps, but Hinata knows what drove you. That is why she was able to forgive you. And you, me. I'm merely curious whether Hinata is right or not, about her belief that you can change. That is why instead of killing you, I freed you. Freed? Neji blinked a few times. I see, so the fact that the elders could not renew my caged bird seal was because of what you did. Bingo. Naruto chuckled lightly. And you figured it out so far, so I'm curious about whether you know why I did it, and why in this particular way. You wanted me to suffer. And as for why, I suppose you need allies in order to protect Hinata-sama within the compound. And you do not trust the main house, while the branch is usually incapable of resisting the main due to our seals, so you freed me as the solution. Partly right, Naruto smiled. True, I wanted to punish you for the pain you caused Hinata, but it wasn't just that. If I used a less violent method, the whole village would know that I am able to remove your clan's prized seal. The entire method of protecting the Byakugan would be proven worthless in front of everyone, which would probably lead to a coup within your clan. After all, I highly doubt the branch would remain quiet if they had a way out of their servitude. We would make the main house pay, Neji said darkly. Yes, and that's one reason why I didn't do it. If the branch was to become rebellious, the main house would retaliate harshly. I have little interest in causing such chaos. I believe Hinata can lead the clan on a new path, one where violence between the two groups would not be required. As things are now, and the branch answers their misfortune only with hatred and violence, the world would still not be a better place, would it? The grudges between the main and the branch would only spiral down, creating more conflict, until the Hyuga clan destroys itself completely. I suppose you are right, Neji seemed rather reluctant though. Not to mention that I would become public enemy number one in Konoha. I won't say I'm able to withstand that, not now at least. And I know that if the Hyuga clan wanted my death, I would be facing a lot of trouble. If I learned one thing over the years, then it would be to never underestimate the influence those so-called noble bastards have, Naruto sighed. As for the matter of protecting Hinata, it is likely that I have to leave the village to train for a year or two. So you need a replacement. Why trust me? Neji frowned. I don't have the best track record. Trust. Naruto smirked. What makes you think I trust you? Tell me. Do you have any idea why that head of yours hurts so much? Neji shook the aforementioned aching head in denial. I am a jinchuriki, Naruto revealed, causing Neji to gasp in surprise. Yes, the Kyuubi was sealed within me when I was a baby. So I understand better than anyone what it is to be cursed with a seal on your body. To be a tool rather than a human being, Naruto said sadly. What? You didn't expect that Hiashi-sama would just let me live on clan grounds if I didn't represent something of worth, did you? Unlike Hitomi-sama, he is far too caught up in the traditions of the Hyuga clan. He would sacrifice everything but his family for his clan. No, but the Kyuubi. What does it have to do with my pain? I had to use drastic measures, Naruto explained. After removing your seal, I created a new one in order to prevent the main from placing a new seal on you. At least while the chakra I stored in it lasts, which should be at least a couple of years. Now, the Hyuga are competent enough when it comes to fuinjutsu, so I didn't want to take any risk. I care little about your well-being, but Hinata is a different matter. She is my first friend, the one who changed my life. I knew that if they managed to reattach your seal, you would not be fit to guard Hinata. So I used a small amount of the Kyuubi's chakra. For the upcoming year no one but me would be able to remove that seal. Apart from the limited duration, the downside of this particular seal would be that you feel the very same thing I do when the Kyuubi's chakra flows through me. You mean that? You feel this every time I heard my guards talk how you defeated Gaara. I didn't understand what it was they talked about, but now it all makes sense. You used the Kyuubi's power to defeat him. Yes, on both accounts. Yes, I feel the same hellish pain, though in my case the Kyuubi also heals me as it doesn't want me to die, not yet at least. As for me using it against Gaara, he is a jinchuriki as well, he contains the Aikibi. So, I couldn't beat him without using the Kyuubi's power. That makes sense. In the first stage of the exams, you recognized each other, Neji remembered. True. If you're one, it's pretty easy to notice the others. So, are you willing to guard Hinata? Neji frowned as he weighed his options. Naruto isn't lying. Nothing indicates that he lies. So this would be the real Uzumaki Naruto, the one who even kept hidden amidst our clan. And from what he said and what I know he did, this Naruto would kill me without much hesitation if I refused or if I were stupid enough to try to lie to him. But why would I refuse? Father was wrong. I don't know why, but he wanted me to believe that killing Hinata-sama would make things better for the branch. Did father lie to me, or is he just as deluded as I was? Neji wondered. I do not see any reason to harm Hinata-sama. You are right, Hinata-sama is the only one in the main house who could improve the situation for the branch. Hurting her would only oppose my own goals. Naruto nodded. And you answered my questions without trying to deceive me. You do better than the other Hyuga so far, but you didn't answer my question. Don't try to evade my questions. Yes, I will guard Hinata-sama, Neji said. Not because you force my hand with that seal of yours, but because she is the best possible path for the future of my clan, our only path to freedom. I will make sure she becomes the next head of our clan. I didn't intend to force you to agree, Neji, Naruto explained. Although, I would not have renewed the seal if you failed, or decided to betray Hinata. I freed you, but it is up to you if you want to remain free or not. I don't care much about you. If not for Hinata, you would be dead already. Instead, you are the first person who targeted Hinata and lives. As for the upcoming trial, I will aid you where I can. But I am no Hyuga and have little say in the matter, so I will inform Hitomi-sama of our deal. Like me, she aims to protect Hinata. But with Hiashi-sama as her husband, the main house can't touch her easily. Unlike Hinata, Hitomi-sama is too skilled to be easily assassinated. It's not that I think Hinata is weak, on the contrary actually, but she isn't ready to face Chunin or Jonin level opponents, not yet. So, I trust you with Hinata's life while I'm gone. And I will give you one warning. Don't make me regret this. If Hinata suffers due to your actions, the main house will be the least of your worries. Neji couldn't say he felt very surprised after all he had seen, but upon hearing the blonde so casually warn that he would kill him if he failed, Neji shuddered a bit. Or was it due to the small amount of killing intent that leaked from the jinchuriki? In any case, the deal was made, and Naruto left. Now Neji would act as Hinata's guard, if he survived the trial. To Naruto, Neji was the perfect candidate for the job, even though there were more branch members who he could force into this position. But unlike them, the main house would not suspect Neji. His hatred towards Hinata was made obvious, so he would be the last person they would suspect of guarding her. Who knows, perhaps after all this is over, Neji could become the brother Hinata always wanted him to be. Naruto thought, as he sneaked through the compound to check up on the ceiling arrays he left on Hisashi's prison. When Naruto left the compound, he smiled, happy to go to his new home, to return to his friends and his newfound sister. Quit your complaining, Kyuubi. Shut the fuck up, Saken. I'm Uken, you blind bitch, Uken growled back. Guys, just stop it, Kitamaro yawned. This isn't going anywhere. We got our orders, so we act. There is nothing new about that, so quiet your bitching, Kyuubi. And let's get something to eat first, Jirobo suggested. Like you need to get any fatter, you pig, Kyuubi scoffed. If a bystander would listen, he or she would never believe that these 4 or 5, if counting Uken and Saken as separate people, would be a good functioning team. Truth be told, these 4 only cooperated properly during missions. The only things the 4 elite guards of Orochimaru had in common were the cloth tunics they wore, and the disdain they had for everyone else. Their hatred for others was the only thing that made them function as a team. Beyond that, the 4 would have turned against each other, if their master's orders had not prevented them from doing so. Then again, these 4 were a bit unusual. Jirobo was considered to be relatively polite, but was lazy toward everything but eating. Kitamaru shared his trait of not taking anything seriously, but unlike the sloth, Kitamaru treated everything as a game. It was something which annoyed Saken and Uken. The 2 brothers might be the worst-tempered of the 4, but their loyalty was without question. That trait also compelled Orochimaru to make them the leader of their dysfunctional little squad for their loyalty, and their strength, which was also a factor. The 2 combined were definitely the strongest of the sound 4, at least while Kimimaro wasn't around. Individually, Saken and Uken could be beaten by Kyuubi. The kunoichi with the long, untamed red hair hated everyone, even Orochimaru, to the point where Kazu and Kabuto had often remarked that she couldn't be trusted. However, Kenta found her questionable loyalty amusing. Having passed some time in silence, Kyuubi couldn't help but complain again. Seriously, why does that snake even have any interest in that little Uchiha faggot? Next body, Saken grumbled. Ah yes, when that boner got ill, he certainly got pissed, Kyuubi smirked. Though I wonder why the snake didn't take that crystal bitch's body. How long are you going to carry that grudge? As long as the one I've got against those fucktard parents of mine, who sold me to that fucking snake, Kyuubi growled. Once all that trash has perished, my grudges will end. He might just take your body instead, if you keep talking like that, Kitamaru chuckled. But apparently, The Sharingan is more interesting to him than that Shoten thing of that stuck-up bitch. Good for Kenta, as he has always wanted to kill that piece of trash ever since she destroyed his blade. I'd rather not be his guinea pig, Kyuubi shuddered. Let that bitch do it, she is always whining about her undying loyalty anyway. Or that bastard Kenta can kill her for all I care. Despite not being marked, Gurren wouldn't be taken down easily, Jirobo mused. You're kidding, right? Kitamaru frowned. Ever seen that guy fight? He'd kill her before she even knew what was going on, that's his style. Why else do you think Orochimaru-sama gives nearly every assassination mission to him? Even if she was able to challenge him in a duel, she wouldn't last long if Kenta-sensei went all out. Kyuubi sighed. Whatever. It's not like it matters. We're all stuck in this hellhole anyway. Where else can we go with this fucking seal on us? Perhaps if we get a chance to kill some of those treehuggers, that might remove the boredom a little. I wonder why the snake gave us orders to avoid that blonde kid though. Apparently he fucked up that jinchuriki we used against Konoha, Saken muttered. Let's just do things as discussed. Tomorrow, we reach the outskirts of Konoha, so we take shifts and first observe our target. When we know the trash's schedule, we pick a place to meet him when he's alone, and we go and see if he wants to come along voluntarily or if we have to use force. Why don't you let me send my doki and drag that faggot with us, Kyuubi suggest. For the 100th time, Orochimaru-sama wishes the Uchiha brat to come along out of his own volition, Saken snapped. Now shut up and get to sleep. You'll take the first shift tomorrow, and if you mess up I'll kill you myself. Looking back at the Hyuga compound as he departed, Naruto found himself doubting his past actions. Maybe Hinata is right. Perhaps killing is not the solution. It's what Jiraiya said as well, with his talk about the cycle of hatred that controls our world. But sensing all the hate and darkness in people, I played judge and executioner. Is it all on my own whims? Are right and wrong, good and evil, are they choices or something inherent to people? The fact that Neji is changing his view would suggest that it's all a choice. Looking up at the moon, Naruto wondered if he hadn't made a horrible mistake by killing so many. His doubts battled the agitation he felt all night. I wonder why that fox has remained so silent. He has never been silent for this long. I bet he would have something to say on it, Naruto sighed. Why am I even thinking such a thing? Listening to the fox would be stupid. He doesn't want to help me, only himself. I wanted to change the world, but what gives me the right to do so? I condemned people to death because of their actions, their intended actions, yet I always ignored the cause. What drove them to do it? What did they want to achieve? If I knew the whole situation, I might be able to stop it. Yet Konoha allows the Hyuga clan to do as they please. Why does Ji-san allow them to enslave their own kin with that wretched caged bird seal? Naruto grunted in frustration. Every time he found an answer, it only turned out to be another question. Great. Let's move. Those two morons are lurking around again. I wonder why they didn't learn their lesson when Yamato sent them away. It was a night where a lot of people couldn't sleep. Perhaps the most unexpected person on the list of people who were unable to rest was a certain young Nara outside Konoha due to a mission. The team had been suddenly called to solve a case of theft not too far from Konoha, and Shikamaru had little interest in it. Why can't I sleep? Troublesome, and here I thought it was a good day today. Shikamaru certainly had had a good day. Evading his mother, he had found a spot in the Nara compound where he could rest without being disturbed for all kinds of troublesome chores. I only slept half a day, so why can't I sleep? Geez. Shikamaru sighed and turned around, trying to find a better position in his sleeping bag. That Naruto. I always knew he was hiding something, and during the exams it became obvious that it was something big. But the Kyuubi, I wonder how he survived. It must have been difficult to live in a village where everyone hates you for having such a thing within you. And while you never wanted such a thing in the first place. Damn. It must be the most troublesome thing since the invention of coffee. Shikamaru listened as Ino mumbled something in her tent, as if the blonde insisted on proving Shikamaru's theory that she never could shut up for long. Then again, Naruto is troublesome himself as well. Not as much as Mom, but he is definitely A-rank troublesome. I mean, he is literally shrouded in mysteries. I doubt if anyone knows who he really is. Well, Hinata would likely know, but she would never reveal anything about him. Now Konoha knows about his true strength, and his status as jinchuriki became pretty much public knowledge as well. But if he really wanted to remain hidden, I'm sure he would have found some way to do so. But he didn't. I wonder what he might be planning. Hey, I'd better do as I promised and visit him soon. Figuring out what he is doing might be worth the effort. Arriving at the estate that would now be his home, Naruto got annoyed. He had noticed the two getting closer, and they had just unknowingly triggered the seals he had set up on the perimeter. There was limit to Naruto's patience, especially during nights like these. Why don't you quit trying to hide? Naruto grunted. Just go away so I can go to sleep. I'm not in the mood for this shit. Two men emerged from the darkness, one shorter, the other rather tall. The contours of the flak jackets that Naruto could see confirmed that the two were indeed the two Chunin who had tried to annoy him earlier. Great. I just got a headache from all the thinking, and now these two numbskulls show up. Why did they pick this night? Shut up, you filthy monster. The tallest of the two Chunin shouted. The other gestured him to calm down. We've came to end yours and the other monster's lives, he said coldly. Yeah, Naruto said on a bored tone. And I'm here to defend Gaara. And I'm not planning on dying yet. So, piss off, and nothing happens. If possible, it would be nice if all the killing just ended. Killing. The tallest Chunin scoffed. Despite your demonic powers, you are just a greenhorn, not even a shinobi for a full year. And now you think you can kill two Chunin? Why not? No matter the rank, you two are still fodder, Naruto shrugged. Now piss off or die. Your choice. Up from behind, he sneaked forward. This was his chance. His wife had died. His brother died. His cousins had died, even the youngest of them, a boy who had just been recently promoted from the academy, but unlucky enough to be caught up in the onslaught. Almost everyone he cared about died that day. They all died because that accursed demon had to attack Konoha. Seeing the incarnation of the abomination being paraded around in an exam he should never been allowed in had only revived the scorching pain in his chest. But now, he had his chance to avenge his family. Still unnoticed, the man smiled underneath his mask. The two morons were the perfect distraction. His sword unsheathed, he dashed forward. His target never saw him coming. The monster never reacted, at least not until it was too late. His sword pierced the monster's chest before it could even think of dodging. Being ordered to protect you was the final insult I was willing to take, Uzumaki, the Anbu hissed, as he pulled his sword out of Naruto's back. Damn, really awesome, the loyalty of an Anbu, Naruto thought as he coughed out blood. Warm blood poured down, soiling his clothes. He didn't even feel pain. No, he hardly felt anything other than the numbness that spread, as if a dark cloud covered his consciousness. Shit, not good. Before everything went black, Naruto heard a familiar dark voice, chuckling at his fate. The two Chunin stood there, frozen, as the jinchuriki collapsed. What the smaller of the two started. Stunned, they watched as the Anbu cleaned his sword, after having pulled it from Naruto's chest. You two want to get rid of the other abomination, right? He's up at the first floor, with a room on the east side of the building, the Anbu said calmly. And right now the creature is weakened as well, so take your best shot. If you act fast enough, he won't stand a chance. Gaara was restless. Ever since the finals happened, he had finally been able to sleep peacefully, without being tormented by Shukaku's corruption. But this right now, Shukaku seemed to be in a panicked frenzy, but the demon was powerless due to the new seal. Still, Gaara saw his gourd had disintegrated, even though he had never given the command for it. The sand rose up, swirling around him. Attempting to form a shield, even though it was a weak mockery of his usual defense, but still. What is happening? Gaara mumbled. Suddenly something flowed through him. As if a massive pulse of chakra ran through the area. In response, the sand solidified, while Gaara felt something familiar. Fear. A deep and utterly unreasonable fear. And Gaara knew exactly what caused it. The only time he had ever been this terrified was the day he had faced Naruto. On that day he had felt the bottomless power of the Kyuubi no Kitsune for the first time. But the murderous intent, the sheer malice that radiated, made the previous time pale in comparison. This is bad, Gaara grimaced as he heard Shukaku scream inside him. Bonus. The cat bootcamp of death. Move, move, move. Asterisk. Suto, please, let us take some rest, asterisk Tora begged. She was used to being chased by Genin all of the time, but the Ninako put them through brutal training that made those chases look like child's play. No can do, asterisk Suto smirked. You wanted to get stronger, you agreed with my offer of teaching you after your previous failure. Asterisk. Yet you are enjoying this way too much, asterisk Zero panted. Why not? Suto chuckled. If I'm forced to do this, I might as well make it enjoyable for myself. Asterisk. Chi-sama, please make him stop, asterisk Sakana meowed weakly. He is evil, asterisk. She isn't here now, so you better move, you glutton. After you have finished running this lap, we get some stretching exercises, and then you will do interval training with weights attached. So you had better move, or you will all get some extra punishment. Asterisk. No, not dragging those stones uphill again, asterisk Tora whimpered. But Suto didn't care. He enjoyed playing the role of strict drill master way too much to feel pity for the three cats. Meanwhile, Tamari was a bit surprised by a sudden change of behavior. Akko-san, why is she so affectionate all of a sudden? Did you feed her something? Only a chocolate chip cookie. Cookies. She stretched out, completely relaxed while being on Tamari's lap. Don't stop rubbing my belly, prickly-haired two-leg, or do I have to ask Dusty two-leg again? Tamari looked imploringly at Akko, but she shrugged and gave her a look that meant, I warned you not to feed our insane cat. That removed the last sliver of hope the Suna Kunoichi had. She wondered how long it would take before the Bakeneko would grow tired of this. I wonder how Suto is doing with those three. I'm actually surprised that regular cats are not capable of more than this. This level of training is comparable to what I had to enjoy when I was just a kitten of 8 years, the lazy Bakeneko yawned. Zero. Ino exclaimed. She had heard something scratch at the front door of the Haruno household, but she never expected her own cat to be there. Worse, the poor creature seemed to be completely exhausted, and extremely dirty. Well, except for the white tip of his tail, Zero would rather die than get that part of his fur dirty. Ino. Sakura screeched. Get your cat out of here. Wait, what? Ino frowned. How could she know? Wait, if Zero-kun is here, then Sakana is, kitchen. Ino picked up the grateful cat and sprinted to the kitchen. Corresponding to her expectations, the young Yamanaka saw her friend chase a ginger cat through the kitchen. The poor creature may have had a better constitution than his brother, but Sakana was too tired to keep dodging Sakura, who was swinging her broom at the burglar cat. Chapter 43. Crumbling. Damn, really awesome, the loyalty of an Anbu, a Naruto thought as he coughed out blood. Warm blood poured down, soiling his clothes. His didn't even feel pain. No, he hardly felt anything other than the numbness that spread. As if a dark cloud covered his consciousness. Shit, not good. Before everything went black, Naruto heard a familiar dark voice, chuckling at his fate. Thank you, brat, for being gullible to actually cooperate with my plans, the Kyuubi taunted. You knew the risks and still agreed. You brought this on yourself, you foolish brat. Not that I'm complaining. The Anbu stepped back, as the orange chakra bubbled around his victim. I stabbed it through the heart. I killed it. That demon should be dead. How can that brat still generate such ridiculous amounts of chakra? But Naruto had never died. Not that what now stood up was still Naruto, as Naruto was no longer in control over his own body. A deep voice came from the boy's throat, laughing at the three, not a voice anywhere near human. This was the demon speaking. However, before the two Chunin trespassers had realized what was going on, it was too late. The fools had accepted the invitation of the Anbu, and had jumped forward as they aimed to enter the house and kill Gaara. At that moment, Naruto had started to laugh, and they were too close to escape. They realized too late that Naruto was not as dead as they had hoped he was. I suppose I must thank you puny monkeys, Naruto chuckled. The chakra kept flowing out at an incredible rate. Now that this foolish brat is knocked out, I finally get free reign. The demonic laughter sent chills down the spines of the three men. It's been years, since I have gotten to enjoy myself in this little shithole that you revere as your village. Perhaps it would be fitting for me to finish the job I started back then. I would even be willing to do it out of my own free will this time. The taller of the two Chunin turned as he realized the danger they were in, and he wanted to run away. These levels of chakra were already beyond the levels that were usual for Jonin, and still increasing without any indication of nearing the boy's limit. He wanted to bail while he still could. He and his partner lost loved ones because the invasion of Tsunade, and because of their demon, but he was not willing to throw away his own life not against a monster like this. He didn't want to die without exacting his revenge. They were too late. The bubbling chakra enfolded Naruto's body, and formed the first tail. Ah, it is time to move out, the Kyuubi smirked. Suddenly the chakra levels exploded. Konoha would regret keeping him imprisoned for all these years. All of them. I will kill all of them. All over the village, Shinobi woke up, startled by the sudden pulse of chakra that had blown through Konoha. They all felt the oppressive and malicious aura that was spreading throughout the village. Among them, Jiraiya was one of the first to figure out what had gone wrong, and he sped over the rooftops to the source of the disturbance. All the while cursing the life out of whatever could have triggered his godson's loss of control. Well, he was not exactly the first to go there. A blonde woman who had been looking at the skies turned and listened to her partner's warning. She knew she had to move quickly now, or Konoha could be ruined. Thank Kami that I'm this near. Hinata woke up, startled by a burst of chakra nearby. She quickly grabbed her clothes, and moved out as fast as she could, only to find Kankuro startled and Temari busy trying to calm down Gaara. His sand kept floating up, yet from a lack of control it repeatedly collapsed. Naruto. Gaara mumbled over and over again, his eyes wide despite not even seeming to notice the others in his room. Hinata, we should get outside, something is going on with Naruto, Kiba urged her. And where is that damned Anbu guy? I can't sense him, was all that Karen said before she sprinted away. Her senses were overrun by the sheer amount of chakra that radiated from her brother. To think that the weakling that imprisons me even avoided confrontations with pathetic fools like you. He should have known how pointless that was. Hey, but I suppose using his techniques to terminate you would only be fitting, the deep voice whispered. Futon. Rinkuden. Using Naruto's chakra rather than his own, the Kyuubi fired two massive bullets of wind chakra shot out and pierced and ripped apart the chests of both Chunin. The shorter one had just stood there, frozen in fear, and was killed on the spot. The taller of the two got hit in the back, and was killed like the fleeing coward he was. Naruto turned around, and his crimson eyes looked at the Anbu. There hadn't been enough slaughter yet. Not by a long shot. The cloak of chakra surrounding Naruto's body had already formed a second tail, and was busy building up chakra for a third, but the Kyuubi was starting to get annoyed. The seal was already starting to limit the amount of chakra that could get through, so the demon suspected that producing a fourth tail would be very unlikely. The boy was still able to put up a resistance. The Kyuubi concluded that he had still not caused enough damage to the seal, despite the amounts of chakra he had allowed Naruto to use. I thought I had damaged the seal enough at that point. It seems like I have once again underestimated the accursed seal which that blonde annoyance left. The Kyuubi knew he could force more chakra through it, using a rougher method, but that it would result in the seal getting completely obliterated. I could try that. However, it would kill the brat, and there is still a high probability that I would fail to get out before the brat perished. Dying would be too bothersome now. I have waited nearly a century for my freedom, so a few weeks or months more shouldn't matter. Damn that Yondaime and his accursed skill at Fuinjutsu. Why did she have to teach him so thoroughly? The knees of the Anbu were starting to tremble as he witnessed the release of the third tail. The man knew what was going to happen. Even though the boy lacked control, his reserves of chakra were close to that of the Hokage himself. It was easily enough to make any full-fledged Jonin cower away in fear. That freak, why couldn't he just die when I ran that blade through his heart? The Anbu cursed his bad luck, as he turned and started to flee. I should never have listened to them. The Kyuubi saw the man who liberated him flee. It brought a wide smile to his face. Prey were so much more fun when they tried to run away. It was like they never understood the futility of the act. A claw of crimson chakra lashed out and grabbed the Anbu by his head. I suppose I need to thank you for giving me these moments of freedom, the Kyuubi whispered in the man's ear. So to repay my debt, I won't play with you as much as I would have liked to, and will kill you quickly. The claw constricted the Anbu's head, and squeezed the life out of the man. The explosion of blood when the skull gave into the pressure only amused the Kyuubi, but he needed more bloodshed to satisfy his rage. His smile broadened as he saw two people and one dog approach. They were the very people he needed to destroy, in order to hurt his vessel the most, in order to break him. He knew that if he permanently broke the boy, his freedom would be imminent, especially if he killed the white-eyed girl. As the demon turned towards his new victims, an uninvited guest jumped down. The Kyuubi looked back and saw the blonde stare at him, her black eyes filled with disdain. Well, hello, little sister, the Kyuubi smirked, as he saw his sister's vessel walk up to him. You arrived much sooner than expected. You weren't looking out for this pitiful host of mine, were you? I see Uzumaki-san has lost control, Yugito frowned. I suppose Konoha is fortunate that I am still around. And yes, he is an interesting boy, isn't he? Is that why you reacted so fast? I couldn't sleep, Yugito shrugged, as if she had no care in the world. Though she hated to admit that she never was able to sleep this time of the month, she was often jealous at her fellow jinchuriki in Kumogakuro, who never seemed to care. Though I suppose that might also be because he's a fool. And now, little sister, you want to stop me. Your puny human villages are no friends of each other, are they? So, why don't we join forces and eradicate these vermin together? That way, we both would be free, the Kyuubi suggested. Hanata and Kiba watched in fear, while Karen didn't fully understand the situation. What is going on? Where is Naruto-Nisan? Ah, good, the Kyuubi smirked, noticing the Uzumaki. The only threat left to me is here as well. I suppose I should kill you first, and permanently eliminate the risk of being sealed in another one of you annoying Uzumaki again. Your arrival certainly was not a welcome surprise to me, girl. He moved forward, but before the Kyuubi could make his second step towards the children, Yugito moved instantly between them in order to stop him. Stop this, Kyuubi. Your attempt to break free, it is of no use. Why, are you jealous, little sister? The Kyuubi chuckled. You should have already realized that without cooperation from the boy himself, you are weaker than when you defeated the Ikibi, Yugito said patiently, despite not liking the way how the demon ignored her and instead spoke to the Nibi. If I had to estimate, I would suppose that a more skilled Jonin could fight you evenly when you are in this form. But I have no intention of taking any risk. After all, if you broke free from the seal, I doubt even I could defeat you. Then why don't you mind your own business? The Kyuubi scoffed. You hate those pathetic humans as much as I do, I can sense it as clear as day. So who cares if I kill a few dozen or not? Why refuse to help me? True, Yugito smiled, shocking three genin who were watching. I don't really feel anything for the humans, but I do acknowledge the debt I have to Jiraiya-sama. So, I will stop you, Kyuubi. Tisk. You are the same troublesome little sister that I remember from all those centuries ago, the Kyuubi huffed, as he turned away from the kids and faced her. Yugito had stalked around him, as she knew he wouldn't try to attack the kids for fear it would leave him open to her attack. But without any prior warning, the Kyuubi roared, creating a massive shockwave, which was directed at his opponent. Yugito's eyes widened as the shockwave blasted her away. Well, it not only blasted her away, but also the walls, and most of the vegetation. It would leave a permanent 150-foot scar in the Uchiha district. Being blasted through a wall, Yugito knew she had no choice but to pull out more of the Nibi's chakra and stop the destruction. I just pray Konoha won't see this as an act of war. Reikage-sama wouldn't forgive me if I caused a war between our villages. It's a good thing cats have 9 lives, Yugito hollered, swatting away the rocks that had fallen on top of her. All right, it's time we stop playing nice. Be careful, kitten, the Kyuubi's ability to generate shockwaves will counteract most of our skills involving flames, the Nibi urged caution. He isn't just simply invulnerable against it. My brother was always fond of the fire element, even though he never dedicated himself to it as much as I did. Great, and what am I supposed to do? Yugito replied. Together, we are stronger. And Uzumaki-san is still trying to break the Kyuubi's hold, I can feel it. But I do not know how long Uzumaki-san will be able to continue his resistance, his power is fading fast. So, overpower the Kyuubi, and fast. Do not play around, as you usually do, because there is always a chance that the Kyuubi would decide to take a risk and break the seal. My brother was never known for his patience. If that would happen, we would be powerless to stop him. Yes, I can feel that much, Yugito frowned. Okay, here we go, version 1 should be enough. Yugito roared. Though not creating a shockwave like the Kyuubi, it was followed by a surge of chakra that easily matched the amount of chakra the Kyuubi had in his three-tailed form. Even though the cloak she formed one had two tails, and her body was covered with a light blue chakra that bubbled in a similar fashion as the Kyuubi's orange chakra. Yugito knew that she didn't have to be stronger in terms of raw power, because her control was far better. Besides, she simply was a much better shinobi than Naruto, who had far less experience than the Jonin. Still, she wasn't foolish enough to believe that a simple chakra cloak would be enough to easily subdue the Kyuubi. Yugito knew well enough that if she should take the possessed boy seriously, or she would risk her being overpowered by the Kyuubi. After all, the Nibi warned her that Naruto would not be able to resist the Kyuubi's hold indefinitely. So, no matter how much stronger she was right now, it would be unwise to play around, no matter how it went against her own nature. If the Kyuubi got mad enough, it would try to rupture the seal and break free, and Yugito had no intention of letting the boy die. His earlier performance had made her somewhat interested in him. Perhaps he was the one to change the world to something better. His potential definitely surpasses B's, and based on his earlier behavior he doesn't seem to be as foolish as that oaf either, though intelligence matters little in the face of a Biju's vast power. The Kyuubi growled in annoyance as Yugito intercepted him. Her speed was far superior to his own, and reaching for the three genin who stood frozen there, watching how he had taken over his prison's body, would be impossible. Seems like I have to break that woman who dares to use my sister's chakra first, before I can play with those kits. Yugito knew who the Kyuubi had been targeting, and lashed out with her two tails, batting the Kyuubi away. She needed to get him away from those genin. The Kyuubi was blown into a building across the street by the strike. It was the second one to get destroyed this night, and probably would not the last one. Tsunade cursed violently. She was still rather groggy. The influence of the sake she drank earlier still impeded her movements, as she rushed over the roofs of Konoha. Quickly, she and Shizune met Jiraiya, who in his worry, barely had the time to greet his former teammate. Naruto, he grumbled, as the three noted an explosion on the edges of the Uchiha district. We need to speed up. Seems like Yugito is already there to stop him. Tsunade could only blink when she saw her teammate picking up his speed. Damn. And I used to be as fast as Jiraiya. I really need to start working out, I'm getting rusty. He recovers much faster than I had anticipated, Yugito mumbled, as she watched the Kyuubi rise from a now ruined building and reviewed her options. For the last few minutes, she had smashed him around like a baseball, blown him up, and set him on fire, but despite her clearly demonstrated superior power and chakra control, it meant nothing to him. Even her sharp claws had barely scratched him, and when she threw him away he would just stand up as if nothing had happened. The crater around the place where he fell demonstrated the impact and power, but it didn't faze him. The Kyuubi's endurance is definitely higher than yours, Nibi. He is extremely durable, yes. But while he can take it, as the Kyuubi won't run out of chakra, Naruto isn't as lucky. It is his body, and the damage to it will be substantial, no matter how quickly my brother heals it, Nibi warned. Continuous cycles of healing are not healthy for humans, you know how much trouble it took to transform to the higher stages at first. True, Yugito sighed. I suppose I have no other option than to move to version 2 then. Patience, kitten, patience. Just pin him down. What? Just do it. Can't you feel him approaching? And he is followed by others. Ni-san. Karen stood there, terrified by the chakra she sensed. We need to get inside. Kiba seemed to pull himself from his terror. We need to warn the others and get out of here. With that Yugito woman reacting in equal force, the two of them could flatten the entire district. But Hinata just remained silent and shook her head. She would not leave Naruto alone. Please win, Naruto-kun. Please, please don't die. The Kyuubi growled in annoyance. Little by little, his little sister's container had been chipping away his power. But now that she had moved from the translucent red cloak with bubbles of chakra, to the dark red second form of release, her power was too much for him to handle. The physical manifestation of the two-tailed cat overpowered him completely. Should I just break this wretched boy and take the chance? Or should I give him another chance? The Kyuubi mused. He isn't as bad as the two before him, even though he is infinitely more reckless. Then again, neither of them received me when they were babies. They both had a chance to develop on their own before I was sealed within them. His musings were interrupted when Yugo slammed him into the ground with earth-shattering force. The Kyuubi gritted his teeth, and quickly forced the boy's body to heal. The kit's body won't be able to handle this kind of damage for much longer. What should I do? Even if I break free, there is a window of opportunity for my annoying sister to take me down. I will not have access to my full power immediately. That was the thing that accursed red hair also exploited years ago. The Kyuubi struggled to break free from his sister's grasp, but her strength was too much. The toad is approaching. I need to decide. No, if I break free I will lose, and be sealed once more. If only that girl hadn't appeared. Only an Uzumaki can endure me. Curse my bad luck that she had to pop up now. Tsunade jumped down, quickly followed by a winded Shizune, and saw her old teammate bending over Naruto's unconscious body. What the hell happened here, Jiraiya? She demanded to know. The Kyuubi happened, Yugo answered for him, with a sharp voice. Tsunade frowned a bit upon seeing the exhaustion on the woman's face. Stopping him required drastic measures. Version 2 was enough to easily overpower him, but it was rather trying. Yeah, you could help patching him up, Tsunade. If you're sober enough, at least, Jiraiya mumbled. Tsunade gestured to Shizune to take Hinata and Kiba inside, while she urged Karen to step forward. What happened to him? She asked her former teammate once again. But in his place, Yugo explained, I pinned Naruto down, and gave Jiraiya-sama the time he needed to suppress the Kyuubi's chakra. The seal seems damaged. I had already noted that after the finals, and warned him about the possible danger, but that damage should not have been enough for Naruto to lose control like this, Jiraiya added. And the worried tone disturbed Tsunade. After all, if the seal had really broken, starting her investigation, she noticed Naruto was relatively unharmed. His body is healing quickly, she remarked. He'll be fine in a day or two. His exhaustion is the worst part, aside from the damage he caused to his chakra pathways. The only irregularity. What? His chest. If I didn't know better I'd say he recently sustained some serious injury here, she pointed, as she turned to look at Yugo. Did you stab him through the chest? Don't look at me, Yugo frowned. I only pinned him down and suppressed the Kyuubi's chakra. I didn't wound him. Not seriously, at least. Well, those scratches on his left shoulder might be considered serious, perhaps, but I held back. I know full well that me killing Konoha's jinchuriki would start a war. With Gaara still looking completely frantic in his room, Temari and Kankuro looked up as Kiba, Akamaru, and Hinata walked in. It was Naruto. The Kyuubi broke out. Kiba sighed. He is fine now. For the first time, Gaara responded to what others had said. I felt it. The rage, the bloodlust. Shukaku went. How did Naruto keep it back? He should have lost control completely. I felt it. Because of his seal, Shizune said matter-of-factly, as she walked in. Yondaime-sama left an extremely strong seal on Naruto, as he imprisoned the Kyuubi. And not without reason, it seems. Yugo-sama said that only a fraction had broken out, and if all that was merely a fraction. Will Naruto be alright? Hanata asked with concern. Sure he will, Kiba boasted, mostly in order to hide his own concern. You saw what he could do, at the finals. No offense, he added, looking at the Sand siblings. It is not as simple as that, Shizune sighed. Our seals weaken over time, don't they? Gaara guessed. Using the chakra from the Kyuubi seems to cause damage to the seal, yes, Shizune admitted. The more Naruto-kun allows its chakra to flow through him, the faster the seal will degrade. Hanata gasped as she heard this. She had been proud that Naruto had been controlling such strength, but now it turned out he only had caused more problems for himself. Now she understood why they got the mission to protect Gaara and his siblings. The Hokage had kept Naruto close because he knew this had been going on. Then we must make sure Naruto never has to use that chakra again, she said with a determination that surprised Kiba. No, he said it himself. Gaara frowned, his voice still sounding rather absent. Temari had never seen Gaara like this. What kind of monster would the Kyuubi be, to scare her brother like this? What? Kiba demanded, impatient when Gaara paused. What did he say? It is our burden. We have to live with it. Endure it. Grow from the pain it causes us. But, how are we supposed to become strong enough to challenge a Biju? Hinata sighed. She felt lost that she couldn't even help Naruto. It is not just a battle you have to face on your own, Shizune said, surprising Gaara. No one can do everything all alone. And with you two facing a demon of that magnitude, you both will need all the support you can get. Neither of you is alone, she assured. That's right, Temari smiled. The old guy said that you and Naruto should grow stronger, while not depending on the demon's chakra. We will make sure that you do. Outside, Karen helped Tsunade move Naruto so that Tsunade could close the few wounds that were left to him. His white shirt had been shredded to pieces, and Karen felt troubled that she had to remove the bloody remains of his white shirt from her newfound brother's chest. She felt troubled, because she didn't want to see her brother hurt. These last few days, Karen had helped Shizune with her duties at the hospital. Overrun with wounded, they needed every able hand to help them, and with Shizune vouching for her, Karen had at least done a lot of useful things. That made her happy, because Karen believed that she would be discarded if she was useless to Konoha. But seeing all those who were wounded, who were strangers to her after all, was something completely different from seeing her own brother hurt. Move him a bit to the right, Tsunade pointed at the redhead. I hope Jiraiya is able to calm things down quickly. He and Yugito had left to see the Hokage. Jiraiya had sealed the corpse of the late Anbu, as well as two Chunin who had been there for unknown reasons. Considering Naruto's wound, which looked like it had resulted from a blade piercing his chest, the two Sannin had jointly concluded that the entire episode was caused by an attempt on Naruto's life. Worse even was the fact that Naruto's blood was on the tanto of the Anbu, which suggested that the Anbu had been the one to attack. It implied that the Anbu weren't as loyal as they were supposed to be. Tsunade sighed from having more headaches to deal with, while there was already a hangover from all the sake of the night before. Now, let's focus on getting this brat up to speed. With his healing rate it shouldn't take long, although the scans show that he needs to cut down on using chakra for a few days. Damn, Brad just recovered from his battle with the Ikibi, and now he does this. And if Jiraiya is right, it is all according to the Kyuubi's plan. Naruto Nisan needs to rest for a while, Karen said. She and Tsunade had brought him inside, to a room which Shizune had prepared. Once there, the two finished healing the still knocked out Naruto. How is he? Kiba demanded. Is he all right? Tsunade-sama says he will make a complete recovery, and he'll be up and running in a few days, Karen reported. Although, she said he had to limit his use of chakra for now. Jiraiya-sama would make sure of that, she told me. Naruto-kun was still a bit weakened from what he had done during the finals and the invasion, Hanata said. The chakra the Kyuubi forced through him seems to have done some damage to several tenketsu. Must be nice to have those eyes, Kiba grumbled. Why didn't you say that earlier? You didn't ax. Hanata smiled weakly. In fact, she had been too preoccupied to tell the others what she could see, too worried to think straight. Anyway, he'll need to rest for a few days, Karen sighed. No way am I going to let him die. I just found someone who I can call family, so no. Whatever Karen wanted to say was cut off by a severely annoyed Uchiha who barged into the house, unannounced. What the hell did that moron do to my clan's property? Where is he? Gaara stared at the Uchiha, wondering if it was permissible to kill the boy or not. Sabaku no Gaara was not someone who enjoyed being startled, not one bit. Get out, he said with his most emotionless voice. The tone was enough to make Kankuro pale. Yes, the others could see him pale. It was the middle of the night, so he did not wear his war paint at the moment. He paled because this was one of the two tones Gaara used to indicate that he was pissed. The other type of voice, the one showing that the Kyuubi drove him to insanity, was usually heard seconds before sand crushed someone. This emotionless tone, on the other hand, was the one that could be loosely translated to, "This is your last warning." Everyone who knew Gaara well enough knew that if he said something with this tone, it was your cue to run away and run hard. Tamari knew it just as well. Gaara. No, we can't cause an incident here, okay. Whatever, Gaara replied, more disappointed than anything else. He privately felt a little proud of himself that he had shown so much restraint. Usually organs would have already been scattered over the floor, and his sand soaked with blood. Sasuke, however, did not care for the small victory won by the Sand siblings in their road towards anger management. Uchiha Sasuke was furious. First, the Hokage commandeered one of the larger houses on his clan's property, only for it to be followed by at least 3 houses in the district suffering damage beyond repair. Where the hell is that Dobi? I know he is the one who caused all this chaos. What did you call my brother? Karen growled. Sasuke frowned a little, but chose to ignore Karen. However, the commotion did draw the attention of a certain woman with a hangover who didn't like people shouting. The murderous intent of the Sannin was not something easily ignored. What are you doing here, brat? The blonde grumbled. Naruto isn't able to see anyone now, so either wait or get lost. Sasuke bristled. He destroyed much of my clan's property, he has too. Who cares about a few abandoned buildings? Tsunade cut him off, not caring about him cringing as the word abandoned. She knew very well why no one lived there, but she couldn't care less about that at the moment. If you have any complaints about this situation, you should take them up with the Hokage. Fine, then he'll make the Dobi pay for the repairs. Naruto was attacked by someone else, Tsunade growled. And who cares about repairing those buildings in the first place? Stop living in the past, kid. You're much too young for it. Now get out of here, before I have had enough with your attitude. Sasuke grunted, before he turned around and stomped away. Geez, what an asshole, Karen said angrily. What was his problem anyway? This compound was inhabited by the Uchiha clan, Sasuke-san's family, Hinata explained, as Tsunade huffed in the background. His clan was decimated, slaughtered by one of their own, and now Sasuke-san is the only Uchiha living here. This is all he has left of his clan. Well, that was an interesting show, Saken said. Seems like the faggot has some issues with his temper, Kyuubi snickered. But what the hell caused all this destruction? The same person who radiated that insane chakra, I bet, Kidomaru guessed. Perhaps that blonde piece of trash we saw at the finals. I don't care. Whoever it was, even if it is the brat Orochimaru-sama told us to avoid, he disturbed my sleep. So he will die, Saken promised. Ah, just shut up. You lazy asshole, Kyuubi smirked, enjoying her teammate's anger. Who is going to take the first watch? You, Saken snapped at her, before jumping back to their camp. With Orochimaru's guidance, they had been able to enter Konoha without being noticed. And using an abandoned facility which Orochimaru had used before he had to flee from the village, they had a relatively nice place to stay, as well. At least, it was better than camping outdoors, where they would risk being discovered. Even with the techniques Orochimaru had taught them, which would allow them to avoid being detected by sensors, hiding in plain sight was still unwise. Totally worth it, you stupid two-headed muppet. Kyuubi shouted, grinning widely. That girl really has some bad manners, Jirobo sighed, looking back at his red-haired companion. Hiashi-sama. One of the servants was knocking on the door of the main bedroom. My apologies, but it is urgent. Hiashi grumbled and stepped out of the bed. Hitomi frowned, curious what was going on, so she put on a robe to cover her nightgown and joined her husband. It is really bad, Hiashi-sama. One of the guards inspected his cell, and when he did, it was already too late to save him. He was already gone. Hiashi froze for a second. Explain, he ordered. Hiruzen had a headache and not the kind that he got used to now, because his body had deteriorated each day due to the poisoning. No, this headache was caused by a young Uzumaki. What now? He mumbled, sitting in his office, all alone. Yamato has still not fully recovered, and apparently my Anbu can't be fully trusted on this subject either. The Kyuubi and Ikibi caused too much havoc, enough that even my most loyal shinobi would turn against Naruto and Gaara. Now who am I supposed to make their guard? With Naruto weakened, the old Hokage would normally have put either Tsunade or Shizune on such a task. They were both highly capable shinobi. But with the number of injured, Hiruzen couldn't take them away from the hospital. Jiraiya wasn't available either, as he would leave later that day. Living up to his promise, the Toad Sage accompanied Yugito and her team of genin back to the border. Although the man knew he had to hurry, Hiruzen still expected that his student would be gone for 2 or 3 days at least. Then he walked down the list of people he would trust and who knew Naruto. Kakashi was out on a mission, Yamato was out due to injuries, and Kurenai would probably return tomorrow. People who would be capable of understanding Naruto's position are rather scarce, Hiruzen sighed. How many would know the burden of wait, that's it. Pressing a button on his desk, his secretary responded quickly. Despite the early hour, the man had already been around for more than an hour. The incident with the Kyuubi had woken up a lot of people, after all. Hokage-sama. Bring me Mitarashi Anko. Yes, sir. Should I also arrange breakfast? The middle-aged Chunin suggested. I suppose that would be a good plan, Hiruzen sighed. Or else Tsunade will be at my throat again for not taking care of myself. The Chunin swallowed, and quickly moved out of the room. After all, Tsunade did hold him accountable for these sorts of things. And he knew very well that the busty blonde was not someone to be trifled with. I found and destroyed the remains of Sasori's body, and retrieved his ring, Itachi reported. He and his partner Hoshigaki Kisame were standing in a circle, flanked by 6 shadowy projections, meeting in a hidden cave in the Land of Fire. That is most unfortunate, but it was to be expected considering that the invasion failed. What about Orochimaru? The leader inquired. All things seem to indicate that Orochimaru defected, Pain-sama, Itachi said. Witnesses saw him flee the scene after Jiraiya of the Sannin came too close. Rumors state that Orochimaru succeeded in wounding the Hokage, and that he is currently sick, but the Sandaime is still active. It is plausible that Tsunade of the Sannin has healed him. All 3 of the Sannin were there. The only woman among the Akatsuki spoke. Yes. I do not know why though, Itachi admitted. The invasion failed due to various unexpected events. Tsunade being in Konoha is one of them, but the attendance of the new Mizukage was also outside of our plans. And the jinchuriki. A tall figure acts in a rather bored tone. The jinchuriki of the Ikibi and the Kyuubi are both alive. There is, however, a complication. The jinchuriki of the Kyuubi defeated Sabaku no Gaara, and then somehow altered his seal. He did what? One of the shadows started to curse. Then this whole thing was one giant clusterfuck. I told you that you should have sent Kakuzu and me. If you went there the invasion would have turned into a slaughter. Hidan, Kakuzu's gravelly voice sounded. Though, there were a few interesting bounties to collect. Enough. The leader silenced them. We need to find out what changes have been made to the Ikibi's seal before we can extract it. But it doesn't matter much. We need to wait before we can begin the sealing process, considering the Sanbi is yet to reform. But it is unexpected that the jinchuriki of the Kyuubi had that much strength. By all accounts, Sabaku no Gaara was unstable and therefore able to gather a lot of the Ikibi's chakra. It seems that Konoha's jinchuriki is not very stable either, Itachi half lied. I would advise against taking any action against Konoha for now. The Kyuubi is likely to break free on its own if this development continues. It seems unlikely the boy can hold back the Kyuubi for much longer, and if he is able to keep the Kyuubi contained, his power will be crippled because of it. Unlike, for instance, the Hachibi and the Nibi, the Kyuubi would never cooperate with humans willingly. Noted. Pain agreed. Using Tsunade for this invasion was taking a chance, but correct as it would draw too much attention on us if we attacked Konoha ourselves. However, it is disappointing that we missed this chance to capture 2 jinchuriki at once. How about Orochimaru? Konan asks. That damn snake fled, Kisame growled. All we found in his hideout were traps. I did warn you not to enter it so casually, Itachi remarked calmly. But Kisame is correct. All evidence supports this claim. The 2 known hideouts have both been evacuated, and it was apparent that Orochimaru had spent a lot of effort to clear his tracks. I think it is safe to assume that Orochimaru betrayed us, and that we should treat him as an enemy. So now what? Kakuzu was starting to get impatient. You two bring the Gobi's jinchuriki to the main hideout, Pain ordered. If it is only one, we would be able to keep him imprisoned until we can begin the process of extracting the biju. After that, you and Hidan will track down Orochimaru. I am certain you will be able to collect more funds along the way. Zetsu, you will dispatch a clone to keep watching for the return of the Sanbi. With Sasori out of the picture, you will be responsible for tracking down all the jinchuriki. Itachi, you and Kisame go to Ishigakure. Their daimyo has an interesting job for you. Apparently a Nukenin from Iowa has been seen in the vicinity, and he could be an interesting recruit for our cause. Leader Sama, the shadow who had remained silent during the meeting, spoke up. Can I have Sasori Senpai's ring? Please. The man begged in a childlike fashion. Pretty please. Toby is a good boy, Zetsu's white half said, shrugging when Pain looked at him. Toby nodded, and started jumping up and down. Toby is a very good boy. Can Toby have Sasori Senpai's ring now? Fine, Pain grumbled. Yes. Behave Toby, behave, Zetsu's blacker half corrected the overenthusiastic Toby. And then the meeting was concluded. The shadows quivered and then dissolved. Kisame turned to look at his partner. So, what about your little brother? What about him? Itachi said blankly, still annoyed by Toba's antics. Why does he even act like that? I makes no sense. It doesn't seem to be acting either, unless he is good enough to fool my eyes. I thought you would look for him while you were in Konoha. How was he? Sasuke was behind schedule. Calculating bastard, Kisame smirked. And why didn't you tell them about your interest in the jinchuriki? Don't try to hide it, you were all antsy after you returned from Konoha. Naruto has potential, but it is still too early to say how he will develop. But ultimately it is inconsequential. As I said, the odds are against him. And even if he managed to overcome the Kyuubi, he would still fail. Because, even if I became too weak to deal with the boy, he would still fail because he would not be able to handle your unique advantage. You make it sound as if he could become a worthy opponent. As long as the others don't interfere, Kisame, he might very well become a person who has the ability to make you work for your money. Understood. Kisami's smirk widened. I can't wait. It's been a while since I had a good fight. No way in hell I'll let that bastard Hidan take away my fun, not again. You're still sore about that? Hell yeah. I had dibs on that guy, and that fucker Hidan knew it. But this time I'll be the one gloating about catching the perfect prey, ha. Seriously, it's the second day now, I can move around just fine, Naruto begged. He was sitting in the bed to which he had been confined, being forbidden to leave it. But he had spent enough time there to recover, and sitting still and doing nothing was not really a hobby of his. No. But Hinata, no, Hanata said resolutely. Tsunade-sama told you that you could only get out of bed if either she or Shizune-san said you could. So no, you can't get out. Well, get Bachan then, she'll see I'm fine. Naruto, your definition of healed is not something that many others would share. She didn't even bother to suppress the weary sigh, showing her frustrations clearly to him. You are too reckless. Normally, Hinata would be far too shy to speak up to him, but right now her concerns outweighed her embarrassment. Naruto sighed. So you are still mad at me? Why yes, the risk you took was, you should be more careful. Hinata flushed a little. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but if I didn't do this you would never listen and rest as ordered. You know as well as I do that there was no other solution when it came to dealing with Gaara, Naruto said calmly. I had hoped to avoid using the Kyuubi's chakra, but once Gaara pulled out that much of the Ikibi's power I had no other option. Besides, I already knew the seal was weakening gradually, I only hastened what would happen anyway. Why are you always trying to do everything on your own? Hinata asks, downcast because she felt rather helpless. Naruto didn't know what to say. His first response would be to say that he was alone, but that was not right. He didn't want to insult her by saying she was too weak either. But how could make her see that he was different from her? And where were you that night? Gaara-san said you left the estate for a while. I had a talk with Neji, Naruto said grimly. When I came back to this place, two Chunin were following, looking for an opportunity to ambush me. When I came here, I decided to confront them. Why didn't you warn anyone? We could have helped you, you know that. They were only chunin. Naruto shrugged, fidgeting with the tip of his white shirt. No matter how long he had lived among the Hyuga, he could never get used to being stared at with those Byakugan, especially not if the person he least expected it from glared at him. They weren't supposed to be any trouble, and I felt the Anbu idiot approach. I didn't think it would be any trouble. But he instead attacked you, Hinata said softly. Yeah, I mean, I knew that he hated me, but I presumed he would honor the vows he swore to Konoha and the Hokage. I was wrong about that, as you can see. In a way, you could say the Kyuubi saved my life. Though I would rather have died than attack you, Kiba, and Karen. Naruto. Hinata said, shocked. What? It's not like whatever. It happened, neither of us can change it, Naruto sighed. But at least nothing happened. And feeling the Kyuubi sulk for the last 2 days is somewhat amusing. What is it like? To be a jinchuriki? Hinata asked shyly. You don't want to know. What little Gaara-san tells us makes it seem like you rescued him from being tortured on a daily basis. Gaara's seal was bad. Whoever drew the thing was a complete moron. Then again, Fuinjutsu never seemed to be very widely spread. Even the stuff I found in our libraries is substandard compared to the Uzumaki scrolls. Naruto tried to divert Hinata's attention. But he immediately saw that it did not work. You're looking right through me, aren't you? Your mother teaches you a bit too well, at times. Fine. Yes, my seal is stronger than Gaara's, but the Kyuubi is far superior to the Ikibi. When it told me that the number of tails indicated how strong a Biju is, I thought he was just bragging. He's a proud bastard, after all. But the difference is quite obvious to me now. So, you suffer as much as Gaara-san did? Hinata asks, now very worried. Not yet, at least. I can feel that the connection is getting stronger each time I use its chakra though. Naruto shrugged it away. But the old pervert is going to take me on a training trip so I can get stronger, like I told you before. So, I'll be fine, probably. I just need to get stronger, so that I can withstand the Kyuubi's influence better. Hinata remained silent for a few moments, before she sighed. I didn't ask for this, Hinata. If I could, I would have stopped the asshole that put that fuzzball in me. But instead, the Yondaime is revered as a hero, while let's just say that I am unwanted. I wonder how many requests G-san got this time, from people who want to seal off my chakra, or simply imprison me. Imprison you? Hinata gasped. Yeah, apparently some people thought it better that I was removed from active service after what I did to stop Gaara. Just ask Gaara how he was treated in Tsunade. The Biju are the least of our problems. At times, I think the Kyuubi was right that humans are more evil than any demon could ever be. Quote. Now that you interrogated me, can you tell me why you were so mad at Karen? Hinata choked by his sudden question. I wasn't mad at Karen-san, I just. She wasn't able to evade his question, but she was strangely stubborn about not answering it at the same time. So, she stuttered. This was the third time he had asked her, and the third time she started to flush like this, as if her brain had short-circuited. Ah well, at least it seems she doesn't have some kind of weird grudge against Karen either. They talked casually to each other, and whatever it may have been, it seems like they solved it. It must have been one of those mysterious girl things. I guess I should make it clear to Hinata that I'm not expecting an answer, or she'll run away again, Naruto sighed. And if there is one thing worse than being confined to a bed, it is to be completely alone while being confined. I really don't get you. One moment you order me around, and then you get flustered like this, Naruto chuckled. If you don't want to talk about it, then fine. Though I hope you're not going to fight with Karen or anything. Hinata nodded, her face still red, but didn't trust her own voice. Gay. Who would have known? A sister. He smiled. Just outside the room, Anko stood in the hallway, with a large smile plastered on her face. You would be happy if you could have seen this, Haruki. Perhaps your expectations on them becoming a couple might even come true. Step by step, she seems to have become better at interacting with him normally. While she used to just faint whenever he greeted her, she has truly grown a lot this past year. I wonder how they'll develop. Although, I still wonder if the clan would ever allow such a thing. But I am sure Naruto will find a way once it gets that far. He always does. What's going on? Karen wondered when she saw Akko coming down the stairs. The young Hyuga was still smiling. Nothing, Akko said. Shizune-san has still not arrived. No, then again, things were crazy in the hospital, Karen sighed. Is Ni-san still okay? Hinata-sama has just forbidden him to get out of his bed. She can be surprisingly strict at times. I guess. Are she and Ni-san, you know? What? Karen blushed. Well, the way she looks at him when he is looking in another direction, I assumed she. Akko shrugged. That is something they have to work out eventually. Just like you and Kiba still have a way to go before you are a couple. KK Kiba-kun. Karen gasped. But I haven't. I mean. Akko giggled. Don't worry, I can keep secrets. I am loyal to Naruto, and you are his sister, aren't you? Though, I hope you are less troublesome than your brother. Karen's head jerked up when the door opened. Shizune-san. Sorry to disappoint, Kurenai smiled. Karen, I wasn't expecting you here already. Akamaru barked happily, and Kiba stood up from the chair he had been sitting in. Kurenai-sensei. You're back already. Yes, it turned out the mission was easier than anticipated. And when I met Kakashi and his team, I heard enough to know that I had to get back quickly. How is he? Kurenai asks. Naruto is fine, you know him, Kiba shrugged. But apparently his seal is starting to crumble. Our idiotic Anbu guard tried to kill Naruto. If you ask me, he was less troublesome than the one whom Hokage-sama assigned afterwards. Hey, I heard that, a voice came from the kitchen. Kurenai frowned and immediately knew what Kiba meant about trouble. So you get assigned to guard Naruto and Gaara, Anko. Kurenai pinched the bridge of her nose. What did you do to earn yourself such an assignment? I might have accidentally destroyed a few shops. A slightly embarrassed Anko walked into the room, followed by a smiling Akko. Both were carrying food to the dinner table. I guess that's why they assigned you to this place. In an empty district like this, you can cause fewer victims, Tamari remarked, carrying a saucepan to the table. Hey, it wasn't my fault, but that cat of yours who? She taunting you is not an excuse to wreak havoc like that, Akko chuckled. Why do you keep protecting that cat? I don't like strangers sending snakes to eat the house cat. Nor do I like people who order their summons to strangle children. Anko. Kurenai suddenly seemed to radiate a dark and menacing aura. What did you do? Kur-chan, I didn't. I mean, she exaggerates a little by saying that I. Slap. Kurenai hit Anko on the head. Not hard, but enough to get the message through. When will you ever learn, Anko? If you keep acting like this, no one will ever forget. Sorry, Kur-chan. Anko bowed her head, and seemed really embarrassed this time. I know, but that cat stole my dango. That she did, and I'm not returning her blanket to her until she apologizes for it, Akko said. Sorry. Until she apologizes for it and actually means it. No fair. Anko made a face at the cat, which only made Kurenai slap the back of her head again. Behave. Sorry. You and that cat are exactly the same, Kurenai deadpanned. We know that already, Kiba sighed, causing the snake mistress and the playful cat to object in equal indignation. I'll get Gaara and the makeup kid. Good, then I'll fetch Hinata-sama and bring a plate of food to Naruto, Akko replied. Tired from a long day at the hospital, Shizune dragged herself to the Uchiha district. Well, not literally, of course, but the woman was rather exhausted nonetheless. Checking up on the boy with his boundless energy and zero sense of self-preservation would no doubt add to the fatigue, and she was part of the Kato clan, and not the Nara clan. But she volunteered for the task, so she had no right to complain. Tsunade had been ready to go, but Shizune told her she wanted to meet up with Karen. Tsunade had smiled at this and told her she could see why she liked the kid so much. Perhaps Tsunade-sama is right. When I was her age I resembled Karen a lot. Hey, even the part where I had a crush, Shizune sighed when she thought back. The boy had been a year older than her, and it had broken Shizune's heart when he died in a mission. She knew that Genin had a high chance of dying on their first mission outside Konoha, but she never thought that he would. Look at me. I'm so tired I'm getting all gloomy, Shizune sighed. Still, it had given her somewhat of an understanding of how much it had hurt her master when her uncle had died, of how it still hurt her. She and uncle were really close. Compared to them, Sanjuro and I were more like strangers. We didn't even get a chance to date properly, and still I never stopped imagining what my life would have been like if he had lived. Ah well, I hope that Karen-chan has more luck than I had. At least Kiba has a team around him that won't abandon him. So, can I finally leave this damn bed? Hinata doesn't even allow me to read my Fuinjutsu scrolls. I want to do something, Naruto whined. Please. Shizune could barely contain her laughter when she saw the perplexed expression on Hinata's face. I didn't mean it like that, Naruto-kun. She squeaked. But Tsunade-sama said that. You did well, Hinata, Shizune smirked. Yes Naruto, drastic measures were needed. You would ruin yourself if no one would stop you and force you to take the time you need to recover. Yeah, so am I healed already? Don't you? Yeah, me. Shizune was too tired to deal with a sly 12-year-old like him. You are way too reckless. Who cares? That fox heals me anyway. I thought you would realize by now how dangerous it is to rely on the Kyuubi. It wasn't my fault I got stabbed in the chest by some perfidious Anbu. Shizune rubbed her forehead. Just be a little more careful, okay? And be glad that I'm the one telling you this. If Tsunade-sama had been here, you would have needed another few days to recover. In fact, you should count yourself lucky that Hinata and Akko-san managed to convince her that tranquilizers weren't necessary. During the exchange, Karen had gotten a sore stomach from suppressed laughter. She had seen enough to conclude that her newfound brother was stubborn, but he had done nothing but lose arguments. Not that Karen pitied him, she actually agreed with the others. In fact, she had told him so when he had mistakenly hoped that she would be a bit more lenient regarding his restrictions on movement. At least he seems to listen to Shizune Nissan's warning. Then again, he knows she is one of the best medics in the world, there is no way he could deny that. I wish I was a little like her. Karen thought. She had spent a lot of time helping Shizune at the hospital, and had grown a deep respect for her profession, not that Karen believed she could do such things. It's sad that Kusagaker only had interest in my abilities as a censor. I completely suck at everything else. Who am I even kidding, thinking I could become as cool as Shizune Nissan? Bonus. What not to do with Sake? She yawned. Her minions were still training to be proper cats, and with the wrathful snake mistress around the house, she felt a bit uneasy in their temporary home. It was not very surprising, considering how the woman had sent several snakes after her once she had seen her. Still, it was less boring than this current aimless drift through the village. Akko-sama is still busy with the house, Whisker Two-Leg is still confined to his bed, while White-Eye Two-Leg Heim is busy looking after Whisker, or else being trained by the queen of the White-Eye tribe. And the others are boring, she sighed. Makeup Two-Leg is always busy playing with his dolls, Dusty Two-Leg is way too silent, while Miss Prickly Two-Leg is rather boring as well. And she started out so well with those chocolate chip cookies, I don't know why she refused to give me more. Spoil sport. Jumping from one rooftop to the other, she saw a familiar face. Or rather, two familiar faces. Well, they were so similar they might as well be counted as one face. Oh, this could be fun, it might be a bit cruel, but fun to watch nonetheless. That was very youthful Lee, I'm so proud you mastered it so quickly. Guy exclaimed. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. The poor waitress, who had been watching the scene in horror, was hit by some freakish vision that left her absolutely terrified. But the green-clad duo never even noticed the screaming woman running away, while screaming, "My eyes, my poor eyes," over and over again. Later they ordered a meal from the shop owner, a man who was familiar with Guy, and had been wise or traumatized enough to look the other way earlier. Ooh, curry rice. Yes, Lee, it's the only meal youthful enough for a celebration. My ears. Why do I have such good hearing? Or are those two so freaking loud? She shuddered. She stood outside and waited until her plan came to fruition. Lee, what is wrong? What are you doing? She nearly fell from the roof as she couldn't control her laughter. Beneath her, the restaurant was virtually destroyed, with only one wall left standing straight. Her plan of adding sake to all the drinks had been a success. I knew he couldn't handle alcohol, and I did hear Big Bullhead Two Legs say it was dangerous, but this. She snorted as she saw Guy making another futile attempt to catch the unleashed Lee. I'm definitely going to do this again. Someone scraped her throat. Oh crap, she whimpered. What are you doing this time? Akko asked with a deceptively sweet voice. Oh damn, she's using the voice. I'm doomed, she thought, as she gulped and looked up. I was only watching, I swear. Nice try, little lady, but I'm not buying it. Not after I saw your laughter. You are grounded, you hear me? Grounded. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.